Let's get it. So, Tank is in cuffs. Shakur got stripped of his title after one of the biggest wins of the entire year. Brandon Figueroa proved myself wrong by going out to Liverpool and breaking the hearts of everybody in the final seconds. And all I can say is this. The boxing world is absolutely on fire, and I've been out for quite some time. But there's a lot to get into on today's show, and so I'm back. This is going to be a fun show. We're breaking down the fallout of why Nick Ball should be moving up in weight class, the Toupee incident that you have to see it to believe it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, everybody. So it has been quite some time since I was last live on a boxing show. If you haven't noticed it yet, I am now going to have this channel separated entirely for the Shu Show and sports content. So it's been a minute. It's been 4, 5, 6 weeks since I was live on a boxing show, but you probably noticed, at least on the YouTube end, a lot of changes happening. Let's start off with this. A brand new logo. Now the Shu Show only has sports content and a lot more stuff. Now, for those of you that want to tune in for Path Across Podcast or my brand new show, the Iron Compass Show, those are all on separate YouTube channels now, which you can go check out on my YouTube channel. They're going to show it right there. It should be on a little bit on the homepage. You scroll down a little bit, you can find both of those channels. Also, the link to those are in the chat below. But without a further ado, this is the Shu Show. It is a boxing show. I'll be breaking down boxing back in a consistent flow every Thursday and almost every Sunday. There might be occasional Sundays we do take off, but I am your host, Zach Schumaker. This is the Shu Show, and we've got a massive show on store for today. The lightweight division is in turmoil with Gervonta Tank Davis now in legal trouble, and Shakur Stevenson, well, he's at war with the WBC. Who knows what's going to happen there? But first, there's going to have to be something we talk about, and it was the war that went down in Liverpool. But before I go any further, for those of you tuning in on any platform, if you guys want to time into the show a little bit, give me your thoughts. Go keep the chat active, and I'll be making sure to address those comments in the chat as we go throughout the duration of today's show. But yes, you guys can also hit that likes button for myself. I definitely appreciate that. The hype button on YouTube, if you guys want to share, retweet, whatever it is, depending on the platform, I definitely appreciate that as well. But yes, a quick recap. I will be back live now. It took a little bit longer than I expected. I was only expecting a 1 or 2 week break off. Made all kinds of changes now. This channel is now officially dedicated just to content with boxing and then a little bit of basketball still sprinkled in there. But Claymore, my man, what's up? I was actually going to DM you tonight or tomorrow morning, but yeah, hit me up. Let's go get that. Let's go link that whole thing up real quickly. I'd love to hop on with it. Whenever we're going to set that up, though, let's go collab for sure, man. I know I just got back finally. It took a lot longer than expected, but yeah, hit me up, man. Let's go get something lined up real soon. Hopefully, we can link up on that aspect. So, as I said, let's keep the chat active tonight. We'll get this first live back, and this should be a lot of stuff to unpack because I have not been live since the end of January, or since the middle of January, so there's been a lot to get into. I'm going to try to keep this show somewhat brief, but listen, I got a lot of stuff to get off my chest. So the first thing is we are going to stay in order. Obviously, many big fights. I'll be addressing Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, all those big things, Xander Zayas, all these different guys that went down. But I do want to go in order with what went down this past weekend in Liverpool, and that was none other than Brandon Figueroa versus Nick Ball. Okay, I saw it. I know you already seen it. I had a reel or short come out right when the fight got announced, and I gave my thoughts on the fight. I didn't like it. I thought that Nick Ball was going to have his way with Brandon Figueroa. Obviously, that claim was very wrong, and I'll open-handedly admit this. I was wrong. I know you guys already let me hear that in the comment section of that video. It's been a lot of fun seeing you guys come back to that video. But the point is this. I was wrong. And I'll be honest with you guys. This ends a very interesting reign by Nick Ball. Very interesting. Now, I'm going to give my hats off to Brandon Figueroa to wrap up this entire segment. I want to kick it off with Nick Ball, though, because I'm going to be honest. When I talk about Nick Ball, listen, this was a man who I was very critical of. Now, I thought he was going to beat Figgy. I did. I did not think he was going to lose that fight. And even throughout the duration of that fight, I thought it was so neck and neck. I mean, I personally had Nick Ball up by round, but it was one of those fights where if it went to the scorecard and Figgy won by 3 or 4 rounds, I would have been okay with that. It would not have been a robbery simply because so many of those rounds, it could have gone either way. So I had no problem with the scorecards that came out after the fact either. But hey, Figgy answered the bell. He got him up on out of there in a brutal KO fashion. Hats off to the man. But what I want to discuss is let's look at Nick Ball. And I was critical of this man. Listen, the reason I didn't like the Figgy fight was because it was once again another man that this man wanted to bring up in weight class. I was sick of it. Now for Figgy, he's obviously been at 126 a little bit longer, but these were not the guys I wanted to see. So for Nick Ball, I've always given credit. This man, he brings it all. Listen, I'm not going to throw shots at the man. I can't lie to say this man is very entertaining. He gives it his all every time he's in the ring. He's a high action, high octane type fighter. He puts the pressure on from start to finish. This is a man I do respect. However, the opponents, I never liked it. And I feel like what we had at 126 for way too long was 4 champions that just wanted to wait for the Inoue payday. The problem is that Inoue is moving with 4 fights a year. He has big plans, and we already knew that plans. It was always going to be a couple different fights at 122, and then the big Junto fight. So these guys were holding out for a year, year and a half, not unifying because they were hoping that they would land the big Inoue fight when he moves up in weight class. Nick Ball, I feel like, was the prime example because he had by far the biggest brand. Obviously, going to the UK, you could have done it there. I feel like that's why this man didn't want to go fight the best guys. He did not want to unify, and I was very picky on that. I did not like Nick Ball taking that approach whatsoever. I was always very skeptical about that, and here's the problem. You took a man in Figgy, who I still think is a little bit past his prime. I feel like he's gone to war so many times that you can see some of the side effects, but I feel like Nick Ball was trying to cherry pick here, chose this man to go out there and fight, and it didn't go according to plan. Obviously, Nick Ball, he was knocked out. I mean, props to the man. I don't know how he got up from that very first punch. That was insane in and of itself. But then obviously it only lasts, what was it, another 15, 20 seconds. Who knows what it was. And then he's obviously going throughout the rope. So that performance by Nick Ball was very skeptical in my opinion. He got out of it, obviously, with a KO'd. And I don't know where he goes from here. I'll be addressing that momentarily. But I do want to spend a second on Brandon Figueroa. I was wrong. Listen, this man did not look good against Stephen Kobe Fulton. Then I thought he lost to Joet Gonzalez. And now he goes out there, he fights Nick Ball, and it's been the best performance I've seen from Figgy in, what has it been, 2, maybe 3 years now? I mean, this was an excellent performance going into Nick Ball's home, in his continent, his country, and he did an excellent job. Obviously, he has what I don't think will be KO of the year, but a very, very good KO that we all are going to remember. And listen, this was one heck of a performance by him. So, what is next from these guys? Actually, going to see the comments say real quick. Absolutely, yeah. Relentless pressure, but Ball, yep, 100% agree with you, Clay. That's 100% spot on. And that's what I actually want to get right into now. Let's get into what's the future for these guys. If I'm looking at 126, I'm ecstatic about this. And I know there's so much to get into on today's show. I've got Carrington I'm going to talk about here momentarily, or at least later on the show. But yes, 126, I mean, that is a popping weight class right now. You're talking about a lot of star power. Nick Ball is obviously, I think personally, I'm just going to say this right now. If you are Nick Ball, I think it's time to move to 130. When you look at 126, you've had your time there. You didn't unify that point in time, and it is what it is. We can't go back in time now, but you've lost the belt. If I'm Nick Ball, I'm moving up to 130, making some noise up there, and at the end of the day, Nick Ball is always going to sell. He's got a phenomenal fan base. He is the pride of the UK. He's always an entertaining fighter. Listen, this man will be back. I think he should go to 130. That's my preferred weight class for Nick Ball. But regardless, this is the wrecking ball. He's going to sell tickets. This is a hot commodity. I see this man move up to 130. That's what I prefer to see him do. But at the end of the day, listen, Nick Ball is not going anywhere. He's still going to be in the scene for quite some time, whether that be at 126 or moving up to 130. Regardless of what it is, Nick Ball is going to be just fine in the future. However, for 126, it's time to unify. You look at 126 right now, Rafael Espinoza, one of the most intriguing fighters in all of boxing from the standpoint of the height advantage that he has. He is one of the most fascinating fighters. I mean, you just talk about a guy that's going to go into fights typically anywhere between 4 or 5 inches, maybe all up to a foot in Nick Ball's case, higher than his opponent. That is a rarity. You don't see that too often. Obviously, you see that from Dora, obviously at 154, but you don't see too many height advantages like that. So he's an intriguing fighter. Shu Shu Carrington is the truth. You talk about Angelo Leo. I like this guy. I'm excited to see him get back in the ring. And now, all of a sudden, Figueroa is right back in the picture amongst many other guys, including, obviously, we know end of 2026, Noah Inoue. He will be moving up to 126, I do believe. So, if we're looking at 126, lots of movement to happen here. I'm ecstatic about this. I feel like it's time to start actually making some some unifications happen. I think that's what we need to see. It's been too long without unifications happening. 126 has been this, literally 4 separate champions just doing the thing at their point in time, and nobody wants to unify. It's time to get those belts kind of going together right now. That's what I do want to see. Hopefully, we do see that in the very near future. I'm happy about it because we are seeing Bruce Carrington. He seems to be like a guy that wants to go out there and say, you know what? I'm not playing games. I want to unify. That's what I want to see have happen. And hopefully that's exactly what we do see because we need some unifications. That would be the fun thing to have happen. Let's go to the comments real quickly right now. I'm going to pull a couple of these up real quickly. All right, so this should be popping up on the screen right now from Clay. Shu Shu moves the needle. Let's have it at Brandon Figueroa in September on the Canelo card. Let's unify. I'm for it. I think at the end of the day, I mean, we could possibly do it a little bit earlier, I think, but hey, if that's when it's going to happen, I'm all for that. Listen, we need unification fights to happen. You talked about it. 126, let's unify. I mean, we've got guys in this weight class. We've got talent, but it's time to find out who that guy is. Undisputed would be awesome. I just want some unifications going down, y'all. When we look at these guys, obviously we wanted that from Nick Ball from a long time, but Espinoza, have him fight Bruce Carrington. Have him fight Leo. Any of these guys. Let's make some big fights happen. I would love to see that. If it does have to wait until, September and when Canelo gets back, it is what it is. But hey, I would love to see some unifications happening. Hopefully, we do get that in the very near future. All right, so I do want to get into a couple other aspects now in regards to other things that's gone down. As I said, we've got lots of stuff to get into on today's show. It's been a minute. The big thing I do want to transition into right now is this. We're going to talk about the lightweight division. All right. Man, when I signed off a month ago, if you were to have told me everything that's happened at 135, I would have been shocked. Now, at the same time, I expected Shakur to win against Teofimo Lopez. I didn't think that was ever going to be a competitive fight. I was proven correct there. I'll be talking about that momentarily. But I'm talking about Tank Davis. I'm just going to be brutally honest with y'all. This is a man in Tank Davis who he was supposed to be the next face of boxing. The God-given ability is there. The talent is there. But what's not there is the dedication to being great. Yes, he puts in work. I'm not going to say this man does not work hard. What I'm saying is that mentality of saying, I am that guy. We've always criticized the resume. But now push comes to shove, and we're talking about something much more severe than just boxing. I was very critical of Gervonta Tank Davis and his ducking of multiple big-name fighters for a long time. But what's come to fruition now, and I'm not going to say he's guilty yet. Obviously, you're innocent until proven guilty. But what I will say real quickly is this. When you accumulate this much garbage, this much issues with the police, this often, when there's smoke, there's sometimes fire. All right? And I don't know about yourselves, but for most people in the world, you're not getting involved with the police this often. I'm just going to keep it real. If you stay away from women and stay away from doing bad things, majority of the time, if not always, you're not going to be in trouble with the law this often. So sometimes you have to get to kind of a reality check. And you have to realize that maybe, just maybe, when there is smoke, there is fire. And this is the situation with Tank Davis. He's now been stripped of his belt. Who knows what's going to happen? He's champion recess. Who knows what's going to happen? But this is a much bigger deal and situation with Gervonta Tank Davis now. I don't even care about what happens in the ring. We are talking about innocent people outside of the ring. And this is what pisses me off. Just keeping 100% honest with you. We are talking about a man that has the whole world at his hands. He's got everything he could possibly imagine. All the fame, the money, the God-given ability. And this man can't keep himself clean outside of the ring. I mean, seriously, what are we doing? How do you get involved with the police officers this often? There is countless other boxers, countless other athletes. The vast majority of them stay away from the police. This man can't keep himself away from them. And it's baffling to me. Because when you start impacting innocent people, and let me make this very clear, if he is proven guilty, he should have no part in boxing. And other people I've already seen in comments when I post this on X have come back and said, well, this guy and this guy, they've all done bad things before too. Guess what? If you touch a woman in a bad way, you should not be able to gain financial abilities and revenue because of your popularity inside of the ring, inside of a court, on the field. I've always been against that. And so, yes, if there is another athlete you want to name in my comment section and say, well, this man did it, that doesn't make it right. The same opinion is now given out to that man as well. That's my ground. I don't care who you are. It's not some racist thing I'm trying to say either. If you are going to harm women and you're going to do inappropriate things that go against the law, you have no business being on a TV screen making lots of money. That's my honest opinion. And that goes for every single person and every single race and every single ethnicity and everything you want to call it. That's my facts. And so for Tank Davis, we will let this whole legal process play out. Who knows how long it's going to take? But if he is guilty, I don't ever want to see him in boxing again. And that would be a shame because this is one of the most talented men of this generation that's thrown it all down the drain. No big fights, legal problems, absolutely disgusting. And so, yes, there was lots of reports that still need to come out. I'm going to let the legal process play out before I obviously convict this man. But there's a lot of stuff going down. Obviously, this situation is going to happen in Miami. They've issued the warrant. They arrested him, battery, false imprisonment, attempted kidnapping. I mean, the list is absolutely insane. So we'll see what happens. But as I said earlier, the WBA, the president, Gilberto Mendoza, he announced a champion. Tank Davis is now a champion in recess. So we'll see what happens. Now, a side note real quickly, we do have a vacant title ordered. It is going between Floyd Schofield versus Lucas Bodhi or versus Lamont Roach. Now, from what I'm hearing, it appears that Floyd Schofield and Lucas Bodhi is the one we're going to go with. I'm not sure if it's been finalized yet or where the decision-making process is, but it seems like that is the fight we're going to head towards. And let me be honest with y'all. I had Lucas Bodhi on a little bit ago. I think it was maybe 4 months ago. It was probably November, October. And he's a good dude. Love the guy. This is the fight he's been wanting. And if I were to make a fight, I think Lamont Roach is great. I think he's going to get a big fight. Listen, Lamont Roach is at that point now where you just go for the big fights, the big paydays. He's a little bit different situation now. Whether that involves a belt or not, he's at a different point in his career now after his 2 last fights. If you are for these guys, Floyd Schofield and Lucas Bodhi is a perfect fight. I feel like if either one of those 2 guys were to fight Lamont Roach, it's not a very competitive fight. I feel like Roach beats them both easily. If we're talking about Lucas Bodhi, Floyd Schofield, I give Floyd the little bit of advantage there. But this is a much more even matchup, and I feel like this would be a fun fight to make. So we will see what happens. I like the situation right here. I think it's going to be fun. We'll see, and I'll keep you guys posted when we do get an announcement what the fight actually is. But that is what we have in store for that one. I'm going to go back to the comment section real quick, pull up a couple of these real quickly. Turkey wants Figueroa in Canelo's Mexico against the world, but I agree these guys got to be active. 100% agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I did see that now. I forgot that. Yes, I did see Turkey does want Figueroa to fight, and I would not be shocked. That would make sense. And I do see right now, too, it's way too early on this one, but for the Cinco de Mayo weekend one, I know they're starting to build a pretty big card there, too, so we'll see what happens there. But yes, I did see that one. Now, we'll see where here. Herrera, Abdullah Mason, Raymond Martaya, maybe Floyd Schofield out without his old, and the new Tank is sober. Adrien, hey, that's a good comparison. Listen, no, that is a fact right now. That is a good comparison right there. Listen, when we talk about what's going down right now with Tank Davis, it is awfully similar to Adrien Bronner. And it's sad because, listen, I will always say this. God has gifted some people to be incredible athletes. It sucks to see these guys throw it away. It absolutely is abysmal. I mean, you talk about those guys that work their butts off and fight for everything they possibly can get from the high school level on, and they fight with everything they have. And Tank Davis, I'm not, like I said, this guy works hard. I'm not trying to say that, but what I am trying to say is these guys do everything they can do possibly to be right and would do anything to have the God-given ability that a guy like Tank Davis has. And so when you see those type of guys throw it down the drain, it just blows my mind. It is just baffling to me. I don't get what it frustrates me. It frustrates me, and especially when you start impacting other people. When you talk about drug stuff, I sucks for those situations as well. But when you start impacting innocent people, man, nothing pisses me off more than that. So I hope it didn't happen. But when there's smoke, there's fire, man. That is right. I did see that come through. Lucas Bodhi is fighting Albert Bell for an IBF eliminator. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I feel like 135 right now is, I mean, there is so many moving pieces right now because of Shakur being stripped, because of the Tank Davis fiasco. And obviously Raymond Martaya, there's rumors of him moving up to 140, which I'll talk about his fight momentarily as well. There is so much moving pieces right now that I think right now we're just going to kind of see what the heck happens. It could be a very interesting next 3 or 4 months. But yeah, I forgot Lucas Bodhi, Albert Bell, IBF eliminator. I don't know how I forgot that one because I'm actually linking up with Albert Bell, hopefully for an interview in the near future. But yeah, so those 2 guys will be in the eliminator. And then Schofield needs a dance partner, maybe Lamont Roach, but I don't think that Bodhi is off the table. I agree. Like I said, I think when we talk about 135, I think we just need to sit back and kind of see what's going to happen. Let the puzzle fall into place. I don't know what's going to happen. There are so many moving pieces in this weight class. When we start to get from, understanding what's all happening and these commissioning bodies can figure it all out, hopefully we have more clarity. I know Abdullah Mason should have a fight locked in the very near future. I feel like it could be Joe Cordina. That's just a little bit of a kind of a hinge I've got right now, but we'll see what happens there. Hopefully we see that situation come to fruition in the near future. All right. I want to get into another massive thing, and this one's exciting for me. I was very vocal about who I had winning the fight between Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez. I admitted earlier, I got the Brandon Figueroa Nick Ball fight wrong. I did not get this one wrong. I said from the very beginning that this was a fight. Props to both men. Big time props. I give both high praise for taking this fight. But I said from the beginning, Shakur Stevenson's going to have his way with Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez is a darn good fighter, but there is levels to this. Teo is a guy that I consider fringe top 10, probably close to the top 15 in terms of skill set in boxing. Shakur Stevenson is a guy that I think you can make a legitimate case is the most skilled fighter in all boxing. That's my legitimate take I'll give you guys. And when you talk about levels of things, talk about that God-given ability, Shakur's got that. And so this was not a shocking fight. Shakur Stevenson absolutely dismantled Teofimo Lopez, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen from this. But I do want to dissect this fight real quickly for you guys. I'm just going to talk about Teo first, and then I'm going to go talk about Shakur because it's going to transition into him being stripped. But for Teofimo Lopez, when I look at Teofimo Lopez, this is a man that I feel like we need to give some flowers to. At the end of the day, I understand what happened in the ring against Shakur Stevenson. Yes, he got whooped up on. That being said, when we talk about the best fighters fighting the best fighters, stepping foot inside the ring and making the fights that fans want to see have happen, I'm not going to sit up here and go make fun of these guys anymore. If you want to criticize the way he performed that night or even his outside the ring actions, you can do that. But in terms of his who he is as a person inside that ring, him taking that fight, I'm going to give flowers to this man. I will give flowers to Teofimo Lopez. Because this is still a good fighter that made a massive fight, and America's been desperate for big fights to get made, and this man signed his name on that paper, stepped foot in that ring, and gave us that fight we've been wanting. So I'm going to say hats off to this man. Teo, I appreciate you for making this fight happen. And let's be honest right now. There's a legitimate chance that Teofimo Lopez will not fight anybody in his career better than Shakur Stevenson. Like, I don't think he's ever going to fight somebody more skilled, more talented than Shakur Stevenson. And so, yes, was he dismantled and had Shakur put on an absolute masterclass on Teo? Yes. But from Teo's standpoint, he is not going to be just disappearing into the sunset right now. Teofimo Lopez will be back. Teo is not going to fight anybody better than Shakur Stevenson in his career, most likely. And all I can say is this. You still look at guys at 140, excluding Shakur Stevenson, you could make a very good case that he's still the best guy at 140. And when you look at 147, which is a trash weight class, the only guy that would be competitive for him is Devin Haney. This is a man who will be back. He's going to be just fine. I think he will be world champion once again. It's just that there's levels to this. And Teo's not on Shakur Stevenson's level, and that's fine. Shakur is a generational fighter who is going to go down as one of, if not the best fighters of this next generation of boxing. So there should be no issue with Teofimo Lopez. Hats off to this man taking this fight. I'm going to give respect to him. At the same time, man, I saw it coming. But what I witnessed Shakur Stevenson do in that ring against Teofimo Lopez is why I have so boldly said for so long that he was the best man at 135. That he is the best man if he were to go fight at 140. And even if this man goes up to 147, I still feel like that man would be the best man at 147. When I said that, this was not some overly excited hype about fanboying about Shakur Stevenson. No, this was factual. Look at the film of this man. There are things that this man does. Maybe it was not against the best of opponents, but there are certain things that when you study the film of Shakur Stevenson, the way this man moves, the ability for him to avoid punches and still deliver some punches back, his ability to do that is something that no fighters can do. Whether it is in sparring or against the top level opponents, there are certain things this man does against his opponents that cannot be replicated. That cannot just be done against anybody's. This is something special that I've always seen about Shakur Stevenson, and he went into that ring against Teofimo Lopez and showed everybody what's up. Listen, this is not a joke anymore. When we wanted to have that debate about is Shakur or Tank Davis, who's the better guy, it was always Shakur Stevenson. This has always been the man that's more skilled. And Tank Davis always had a puncher's chance, but Shakur Stevenson was always the more skilled fighter. And listen, this man does not get hit. When we look at Shakur Stevenson, this man has solidified it. And I feel like the whole world should now know this, that this is going to be one of, if not the next face of boxing of this next 5-10 years, the next generation. He is as special as they come. I don't like throwing out outlandish comparisons, but if we're looking at somebody that went 50-0, I'm just saying, I didn't think we're ever going to see somebody like Floyd Mayweather again. And I'm not saying Shakur Stevenson is Floyd Mayweather, but this is as close as we might see to someone replicating Floyd Mayweather in a very long time. He has got that much ability in him. And all I can say is this. If y'all think Shakur Stevenson is ending the near of his reign, I got bad news for you. This man's not going anywhere. He is 28 years old. He is going to defeat anybody you throw at him at 135, anybody at 140, and anybody at 147. This man's a problem. And it's time we actually give some respect to this man. And all those haters, I see less and less haters now, but anybody still wanting to hate on this man, wake up. This man's special. He is the truth. I'm going to go back to the comment section real quick. Let's see what we got right now. Outboxed, outclassed, outcoached, outclassed, absolute masterclass. The film study on this one, aged like fine wine. All right. I 100% agree with you. Yes, I feel like one other aspect I want to throw in there is that Teofimo Lopez might need a better corner. I was not too high the way his dad was running things in that corner. I thought it was very interesting what he was doing there. But yes, it was an absolute masterclass. Shakur deserves that. No doubt about that one right there. He says he's going to go to 147. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out for him. I know one thing he needs to consider is changing his trainer. That's exactly what I said. So yes, 100% agree on that one. Versus Brian Norman. I like that. I 100% like that right there. Yes, I do agree with you. Teofimo Lopez, Brian Norman Jr., let's get it. I'm not against that at all. I feel like for Teo, and honestly, I feel like for Teofimo, he could stay at 140. I mean, I know there's not a lot of money at 140 right now, but Hitchens would have been an interesting fight to see have happen. Gary Antoine Russell, once again, these are not big fights. These guys don't bring in a lot of money. But Keyshawn, obviously, all these fights are things I would be all for right now. But yes, Brian Norman Jr. would be a solid fight. I would favor Teo in that fight right there, but I do agree it'd be interesting to see what he does in terms of the weight class moving up. All right, LOL, this is next level glazing. He is boring. Come on, you ain't never watching that fight again or any of his. See, this is what I'm going to say right now. I appreciate you for tuning in right now. Let me be very clear about this. That is the typical response when we talk about people that don't like Shakur Stevenson. And I get it. I didn't say this man is the most entertaining fighter in the world, nor was Floyd Mayweather. But what does that have to do with talent? What does that do with skill? At the end of the day, this man has done everything we've asked of him. People want him to go fight big name fighters or legit fighters. He just did against Teofimo Lopez. And he didn't just do it. He absolutely dismantled Teofimo Lopez, who many deem a top 10, 15 type fighter in the world. And so, yes, if your only critique of Shakur Stevenson is you're never going to rewatch his fight again, this is next level glazing. Those different aspects simply because he's not fun to watch. Since when has that mattered? Last time I checked in boxing, what matters is, can you go inside that ring? Can you defend your belt? Can you beat the best fighters possible? Has he not done that? I get it. Maybe he's not entertaining. And I'm not saying you have to go up here and say, oh, this man's very entertaining. I can't wait to watch him again. But listen, if he's going to go out there and defeat everybody he fights, what else are we going to do? If he's going to keep on beating everybody you throw at him, what are we going to sit up here and say? I mean, you can't keep running out of excuses with this man. He's going to keep going out there and defeating everybody he fights. And that's all we continue to see time and time again. And so, yes, you want to throw out more names out there, he's likely going to beat them. If you can name somebody that you legitimately think would beat him at 135, 140, 147, be my guest. But odds are they're not going to beat him. Tank has a shot. Obviously, he's very skilled. Yes, he has the power, but he's not more skilled than Shakur Stevenson. Look at 140. I know Keyshawn Davis is a hot name right now. I like Keyshawn Davis. That fight's never going to happen anyways. But if you are Keyshawn, he's mentally not always there. Hopefully he's back and he gets his mental checked out, but Shakur still light years ahead of him in that regard. 147, obviously the only name that comes to mind at that weight class is Devin Haney. We'll see how that one unfolds. That would be very interesting, but still, I'd favor Shakur Stevenson. You act like Shakur wasn't already a big favorite going into the fight, but you ignore the reality. I don't know what that has to do with anything. We all talked about Shakur Stevenson fighting Teofimo Lopez, and our response all this time was this. If he's going to go out there and fight a guy that people all deem as a top 10, top 15 fighter, what else are we going to say about him? This man did that job. There was nobody else he could possibly fight that was a big fight than Teo. We all gave props to him. Teo, we all looked at as a guy that's top 10, top 15. How are we going to sit up here now and say, oh, this isn't a big win? I know he was the favorite, but he was the favorite as a guy moving up from 135 to 140. No weight cut, no weight draining, none of that stuff happening. He moved up in weight class to defeat the guy that was the ring champion. He still was the favorite. Does that not go to show how good this man was? If you were to ask me, that sounds like a statement of admitting that this man is legitimately that guy. That's my honest opinion there. And so I get it. Once again, maybe not all fans love Shakur Stevenson. I personally view that very entertaining. I get a lot of fighters are going to, or a lot of fans are not going to go out there and say, I love watching because I want to see the knockouts, which he has done that occasionally. But I enjoyed watching that fight a lot. He is a pound-for-pound superstar, and I appreciate great skills like that. And that fight was excellent to watch. Now, maybe it's not your taste. And once again, I'm not saying you have to love watching him or you have to be a fanboy of him. All I'm saying is nobody out there is going to go out there and defeat him in any weight class that's realistic to fight at. Claymore, man, Shakur is entertaining. He is a pound for pound, one of the best boxers on the planet. The sweet science on display at all times. They just don't know what they are looking at. That's a fact. Point blank. I'm just going to keep that right there. Absolutely. All of a sudden now, Teo is not him. How convenient. LOL. That's a fact right there. Everyone on social media has trashed Shakur, talking about never buying his fights again. LOL. Y'all don't live in reality. What does that have to matter about anything? Like, seriously, since when does that matter about who? I don't get this. This is the only debate people want to say, is that he doesn't have the knockout power, or at least consistently displays that, and he's not going to sell well. Since when has that been anything to do with how good you are as a fighter? I really don't get it. From a business standpoint, maybe, but last time I checked, MSG still sold out that night. It did. And on top of that, many people were still trending. It was one of the most talked about things on all of X, of all platforms, politics, news, sports, everything. It was one of the most talked about things trending on social media that night. So people obviously watched that. And the majority of people I've seen actually come out and say, you know what? I consider this a fun fighter. People are starting to give respect. I've seen less and less haters. Now, as I said, I'm not forcing anybody to be a fan of this man. I get it. If you don't love Shakur Stevenson, you don't have to. But you got to respect the man at some point in time. I mean, at some point in time, you have to give the man his flowers. What else do you want him to do? Does he have to go out there and dismantle Tank Davis if Tank Davis gets out of legal problems? Or does he have to go up there and fight Devin Haney? I don't know what people want from him, but at the end of the day, if him dismantling Teofimo Lopez didn't wake people up and say this man's legit, I don't know what to say, and there's no point in debating this any longer. Conor wants to fight. Devin wants to fight. Murtazaliev wants to fight. Yes, we are delusional. Well said. Yes. I think at the end of the day, people got to realize this man had a successful showing in terms of what he produced, ticket sale wise and view wise on the MSG. Now, get it. Was it a big card with lots of names? Yes. But he still sold well. And as Clay said right here, a lot of big names want the fight. There's a reason for that. Conor Benn is one of the biggest trending names in boxing right now, especially on the other pond. When you talk about UK boxing right now, Conor Benn is a massive name. If he wants that fight, and I think that would be a fun fight to make, I'm going to talk about actually a little bit later, that would be a mega fight to do, whether that be in one of the stadiums out there in the UK, and Shakur should easily win that fight. But he does want the fight, as does all the guys at 135, except for Tank Davis, and Devin Haney wants the fight, which I think we'll see that one day, and that would be a massive fight. So there's no point in really debating this. At the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson is Shakur. He proved everybody wrong, in my opinion. He did his job, and I think it's time to give the man some respect. All right, I do want to get into the other aspect in regards to Shakur Stevenson, because wild enough, he has now been stripped of his WBC title at 135 because he refused to pay the sanctioning fees. All right, here's the deal about this, and this pisses me off as well. I'm just going to give it 100% honesty because we actually got the number came out today as to what the WBC wants Shakur to pay, but here's my comments on this one real quick. Let's get to it. Yes, Shakur did know the fee going into the situation, but it's convenient for the WBC because guess what? They also let Canelo Alvarez hold the belt for a very long time, held it hostage, but they decided to strip Shakur 7 months after defending it against the number one contender in the world. Is that not confusing to anybody else out there? And all I'm going to say is this. The number came out today. Shakur Stevenson was supposed to pay. Remember, he was moving up to 140. This belt at 135 had nothing to do with anything. But because he fought at 140 for the belt Teofimo Lopez previously had, he was going to have to pay $120,000. Let me repeat that one more time. Shakur Stevenson was going to have to pay the WBC $120,000 for his 135-pound WBC belt, when this man was a champion at 140. Do you realize how outlandish that sounds? And then these commissioning bodies want to sit up there and act on the high horse and say, well, why are we going to let this happen? And why are guys want to go to Zuffa Boxing and all these different wild things? This is what is wrong with boxing. You're going to charge a man this much money when he's fighting a belt at 140. Nothing to do with your 135 belt. $120,000. Come on. This is what's wrong with boxing. And I know these commissioning bodies want to keep coming out and defending this crap they're doing. There's no defending it. I think we can all universally look at it and say, you know what? These commissioning bodies are a joke for doing this. Under no circumstance should this stuff be happening to guys like Shakur Stevenson, the Terrence Bud Crawford situation. It's ridiculous. And can I just throw this out there? I have a good feeling that what happened with the whole Terrence Bud Crawford thing probably did influence a lot of what happened to Shakur Stevenson. And all I'm going to say is that probably did factor a lot with WBC deciding to make him or take away his belt. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And this goes for everything. And that is why I'm going to firmly stand on this and say this. When we look at these belts right now, don't be surprised when we start to see more and more guys transition into Zuffa Boxing and these other things. Why? Because these commissioning bodies are continuing to screw over people time and again. Over and over again. And I'm not just talking about Shakur Stevenson. I'm talking about what happened with Terrence Bud Crawford. I'm talking about what happened with multiple other people, that when you look at what these bodies are doing, this is absolutely ridiculous. These guys are going to go out there and cause these commissioning fees, which I think are ridiculous. I understand they've tried explaining this and justifying it. There's no justifying these things. Zuffa Boxing is doing just fine by having no commissioning fees. That is why you're seeing guys like Jai Pataya. And guess what? Odds are quite high that Alexander Usyk is also going to go over there in the near future as well. These guys are moving over there because they're sick of it. At the end of the day, these belts are cool. They're historic. No denying that. But what are we going to do up here now if we're going to sit in a situation where we're saying these belts are fine, the ring belt and a Zuffa boxing belt can go up here, no commissioning fees, no having to pay these fines. Does that not sound better to anybody else? I think it does. And so I think it's absolutely ridiculous that's what the WBC did. I know they're going to try justifying it, but it is what it is. Let's go right back to these comment section real quick. I see it's going off right now. Twice the amount he had to pay for the WBO, the actual title he was competing for. 100% agree. Once again, I don't understand it. Can't be justified. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And then we got right here. SchuZ, you need to stop talking boxing because you a casual, do your homework on the WBC and Shakur. All right, if you think there's some casual aspect about me, I'd love to hear it. I really would be surprised. I watch just about every single boxing fight from card start to finish, whether that is in Japan, Australia, or America, or anywhere else that's going down. And I've been doing that for a very long time. So if I'm a casual, that is fine. You can have your own opinion. I do my research, actually a lot of research. And so fill me in if there's something I'm truly missing right here. Trust me, your conversation is casual, and that's an understatement. Yeah, I do agree with that one. Let's see right here. It was Shakur's manager and team that contacted the WBC to have Shakur keep his 135 belt, but y'all act like Shakur had no idea the rules. LOL, and you straight goofy. Listen, as I said, I get that there are rules, but that's what I'm bashing right now. I think you don't understand what I'm saying right now. I think those rules in place by the WBC and the other commissioning bodies are what's a joke. I've said that in the very beginning when I said this whole segment. I can go back and pull it up if you really need me to. I made it very clear. I said he knew what he was going into when he signed the contract for 140. I got it. No denying that. You are right. Yes, Shakur Stevenson knew exactly what was on stakes when he went and signed up for that contract. That's not the problem I'm having. I'm not acting this was some surprising thing. I said that in the opening statement as well, just to make that clear once again. My problem is that should never be a rule. I'm not saying something surprise action or something wrong that they just did to decide him. I'm saying this whole entire idea of the commissioning bodies sanctioning these fighters to pay this much amount of money is absolutely ridiculous. That's the claim I'm making. And I stand by that one. 100% stand by that one. Go kiss Shakur's pillow more and bite down because you ignore reality. Shakur got stripped rightfully according to the rules. Okay, so that's what he's going to keep rolling off with. Sir, it's not about whether or not the bylaws support the hypocrisy. It's that it's unethical. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying right now. You do know that Shakur's team asked the WBC for an exemption and wanted to rep the belt for the promotion of the fight. You have no critical thinking skills. You're an echo chamber of nonsense you hear. All right, so I'm just going to echo this one last time right now. And this is this. Listen, you are correct. Yes, no denying it. Was Shakur Stevenson obligated to pay the sanctioning fee based upon the rules the WBC put in place? Yes. You're not wrong with that statement. My entire thing is this. That should never be a rule to begin with. I'm not taking shots with Shakur Stevenson. I think you think that because I love Shakur or something like that, which I don't. I just appreciate what he brings in the ring. I'm actually not a fanboy of anybody, to be quite honest with you. I just watch all boxing. But this is not about Shakur. Take his name out of this. This is not about Bud Crawford. Take his name out of this. I'm using Shakur's name because he was the most recent guy that had this apply to him. My standards is this. The whole sanctioning fee fighters have to pay for defending the belts, whether it is moving up in weight class or fighting for the defending their own separate belt, whatever it is. All I'm saying is that right there is wrong. That is my whole point. You are 100% right. Let me clarify this one more time. Hopefully this comes across your mind and you understand this. Yes, you are spot on. Yes, Shakur was supposed to pay that. Yes, that was the rule. Nothing you said is inaccurate. You are 100% spot on, and I appreciate you for bringing that out. This entire statement is about the WBC. It is about the sanctioning bodies and the corruption, the crap that they pull out on fighters that is hurting the sport of boxing. That's what this is about. So you can completely take off Shakur Stevenson's name. Ignore Shakur, ignore Terrence Bud Crawford, ignore all these names. Let's just evaluate the WBC for this moment in time. The ruling of the WBC to make guys pay the sanctioning fees is ridiculous. That is where I stand on it. Whether you like that or not, that is my stance. I do not think they should be doing that. I think it's an outlandish amount of money. They have no business doing that. That is where I stand on the WBC and what they're doing. Whether you like that or not, that's fine. That's your own opinion to have. I'm not going to change your opinion. All I'm saying is that is unethical. I do not agree with that. So you ignore the facts that it was Shakur's team that asked for the right to use the belt, asked for motion. His team called the WBC to make it happen. What part of that doesn't make sense to you? The WBC pulled nothing he could have just told the WBC wasn't vacating. You do get that right. So I don't know if you're going back and forth with Clay or me still here, but I'm going to move on from this topic right now. Fix your laws for the love of God. Do something about the belts. These are way too many of them that discredits the sanctioned bodies and the value of the belts. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of move on from the subject. I see one more comment. Actually, I've not responded to him yet. So Left Post 4, I 100% agree with you. They don't use the money appropriately. And what I found interesting was, and don't quote me on the numbers right now, but there was something I do remember, the whole Terrence Bud Crawford situation. What was that now? 2 or 3 months ago. They gave some form of like justification for different things they did to use that money towards, and it didn't really all add up. Something about they pay X amount of money goes towards former fighters, this, that, and the third. And listen, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, so I'm not going to quote numbers or I don't want to be wrong, but they do some things, but at the end of the day, the numbers are not justified. And what I'm going to say is this, and I get this will be a hot topic. I'm actually going to get into Zuffa Boxing here in a little bit, but when we do talk about these guys, Zuffa Boxing has a plan in place. There's no commissioning fees. They're going to pay for insurance. They're going to pay for the health of different fighters. This goes for both the present and after you accumulate X amount of fights or years of service, you're then going to have healthcare moving forward. Very similar structure to the NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL. They all do these things. That's what Zuffa Boxing is doing. And I feel like that is a much better situation, a much better business format than what boxing is currently doing. How do you know that they don't use the money correctly? Do you have proof? No, I don't have 100% proof. That's what I just said. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I made that very clear in what I literally just said. But what we do have is that Mendoza has come out on multiple occasions and tried saying that what they do towards the money is help other fighters. Now, I just backed it up. I told you what my thoughts are, and I feel like there's a much better way of going about that, such as what UFC has done with Dana White and those different groups over there, as well as every other commissioning body that runs sports, whether that be basketball, football, baseball, whatever it is. They figured it out. Boxing is the only group that doesn't want to get up with the speed of times, that don't want to fix the things and get the right situation in place. So that's what that is. I'm going to move on from this topic, though. I've got a lot more to get into on today's show. Y'all can go back and forth in the comment section. That is that, but let's get back to it. So real quickly, though, in terms of the Shakur Stevenson situation, obviously he no longer has that belt. And so Herrera is now the interim champion and Williams Zepeda is the number 1 contender. We'll see what ends up happening there. I do think we're going to see that fight happen in the near future. But that is the new champion list at 135. It is very interesting. But since we have a lot of people in the comment section right now, I am curious. Who is the new king at 135? And let me clarify, this is assuming that Shakur is done at 135 and also assuming that Tank Davis is not fighting for the next calendar year at 135. Let's just take those two guys out of the equation for the time being. Who is the best guy at 135? Because lots of different interesting things, but excluding Shakur and Tank Davis, who do you guys have as the king of 135 at the current moment? I'm gonna see this last comment pull up real quickly. I'll leave it be so the host can move on, but these boys need to revisit their approach to doing poor because yesterday's reasoning doesn't move the needle anymore. 100% agree. So let's move into this next aspect. So as I said, we've got so much to get into tonight's show, lots of topics, but the next thing I want to get into is that while there was lots of stuff going down with everything we've discussed so far, there has been countless big fights that have gone down since I was last live. I'm going to kick it off with this. I've given you guys a couple of thoughts. I see that real quickly, though. Raymond Martai, I'll be talking about him momentarily. I do like that answer. He's a good fighter. I'm going to give you guys more in-depth thoughts on him very momentarily. But let's kick it off with this. I'm a happy man. Seeing Keyshawn Davis go out there and KO Jamaine Ortiz in the 12th, that was a phenomenal fight right there. And I've said this all along. When we talk about Keyshawn Davis, this man's future is bright. When I look at Keyshawn Davis, I've always said this. His God-given ability, his skill set, what he does inside the ring. Like for some reason, when he gets inside that ring, all of a sudden his mentals just come together. He's locked in. He's focused in the ring. The second he steps out of the ring, God knows what's going on in his brain. But I've always said this. If he can get himself figured out, if he can get mentally in check, this is going to be a problem for a long time. Whether that's at 135 when I said this before, at 140 now, or 147, whatever it is, Keyshawn Davis is a problem. He is a very good fighter. And see him go out there, hopefully get his life together a little bit more. And what he did against Romero team was special. So Keyshawn Davis, listen, this man he's got it all together. If Keyshawn Davis can keep his mentals in check, he is going to be a problem, whether that be at 140, 147 for the foreseeable future. Like this is a guy that I look at and say, he has that star ability. He has the skill set. Like this can be a guy that when we talk about the next 5-7 years, next generation, call it that, he could be one of the biggest names in the sport. I don't know where you'd put him, if it's inside the top 5, top 3, top 10, whatever it is, somewhere in that list. He can be one of the faces, one of the big names selling tickets of this next generation if he can get this right. And from the looks of it, what he's done over the past few weeks, he looks a lot better. He sounded a lot better. And then he went and called out Devin Haney. Yeah, I like this one. If we're talking about Keyshawn Davis, I don't see the fight happening with Shakur Stevenson anytime soon. I feel like that's not a fight we're going to see ever happen. And so I have to think about it. What's a big fight to make? You look at 140, there's not a lot of big fights to make. Hitchens, I know that was a fun fight to make. Both guys wanted outlandish paydays. Unrealistic. It was never going to happen. We move on from that fight. Teo, I don't know what's going to happen. It appears he's at 147 now. And then you look at guys like Carrington and Russell. Once again, not a big payday. So if you're Keyshawn Davis, well, 147 makes a lot more sense. If you're looking at 147 today, it is a very interesting weight class. It is one of the worst in all boxing. But on top of that, it's one of the highest paydays in all boxing. You have Ryan Garcia. You have Devin Haney. You have Mario Barrios, which is seemingly continues to get big paydays. Obviously, I think it's because nobody thinks he's legit, but whatever. Pac-Man, he's sitting around the table. He's at 147. Conor Benn is going to be at 147. These are all guys I think are beatable. Outside of Devin Haney, who I think is very good, everybody else inside of 147, if you're Keyshawn Davis, you look at them and say, that should be an easy win if I'm right mentally. But he calls out Devin Haney. I like this fight. Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney is a fight that we need to see have happen. I don't know when it happens, if it's next or in the future, whatever it is. This is a fight that's going to start brewing, and we need to see it happen. Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney are two very skilled fighters. Keyshawn has got a little bit more power. Devin Haney's obviously a little bit more skilled, but this is a fight I think is brewing. And if Keyshawn Davis moved to 147, we need to see these two guys go after it. I don't know if he needs another win or two beforehand, but Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney, make it happen by the end of 2026 or early 2027. I hope we make this fight happen. I love Keyshawn Davis calling him out. He showed that he wants the big fights to be made. This is the one we need to see have happen, and I'm all for it. If we get Keyshawn Davis and Devin Haney fighting each other, this would be a mega fight, and hopefully we do see that fight end up happening because I think that is the fight to make at 147. Raymond Abdullah is close second, but he needs a few more fights. I do agree with that, yes. I think what we saw against Noakes was a good performance, but as you said, I mean, we're talking about a guy who is still very, very young, and it's like we were looking at Abdullah Mason. It's a guy that we can kind of take a little bit easier on him because he's got so many years in front of him. We're just slowly develop this man. He's already world champion, but just kind of take him along. So I do agree with that. 10 more fights, and then he'll be in that conversation. Keyshawn just needs to be consistent. He gets in his own way. I'm a huge Keyshawn supporter. I pray he finds his way and stays on the code. He is absolutely generational talent, spot on. And I'm just going to pull this out real quickly. And I'm not sure exactly what's going down. I feel like he's still a work in progress, and we all are. Let's be honest about that. But for Keyshawn Davis, a lot of it is almost just like it's maturity stuff. And he claims to have made a transformation in terms of his faith, getting to know Jesus, which I hope he did. It would be absolutely incredible to see him get to know Jesus and actually follow Jesus and live that lifestyle. I know from personal testimony that changed my life. But if we're talking about Keyshawn Davis, hopefully, he kind of turns that page. Because thankfully, the stuff he was getting in trouble for, it's not like it was illegal stuff. Now, I know the whole marijuana stuff obviously happened, and it got the one fight against Albright or whatever, all this stuff happened. Weed's obviously not illegal everywhere. It's just a mess up there. But when we talk about everything else outside of that, it's not like this man is doing illegal stuff and getting in trouble with the law. A lot of this has just been maturity issues. And so hopefully those type of things can be fixed. He can mature from them. And if he does mature, listen, Keyshawn's going to be a problem for a very long time. Like a very long time. So hopefully we'll see what happens there, but that's what we do have in store in that regard. The next man I do want to get into is Bruce Shu Shu Carrington. All right. I'm happy about this man. He obviously, if you don't know, he defeated Carlos Castro via 9th round KO to win the WBC featherweight title. This man was incredible. I mean, that stoppage, we're talking about that KO of Castro is going to go down as one of the best KOs of the entire year. I mean, when we're talking about this man, that was a nasty, nasty KO. But here's what I want to talk about Bruce Carrington. Bruce Carrington has the potential to be the next star of 126, and might I even add this? He has a chance to be a legitimate boxing star of the next, as I said, the next generation of boxing, especially in American boxing. Here is why. This man is skilled. He has KO power, but he's also got a very unique personality. There are very few guys that have as high of an IQ as that man does when it comes to social media presence, interviews, conducting himself, a very high character guy. I love this guy. I mean, when you talk about Bruce Carrington, we are talking about a man who has a chance to be a legitimate star, both inside and outside of the ring. He is the full package, and you don't see that too often with a lot of these fighters. And so when we talk about guys like a Bruce Carrington, this man, I think, is special. I think we're going to see Bruce Carrington for a very long time, and him becoming world champion is a special thing because you guys notice what he said. He said it immediately after he won, and he said it ever since he won. He wants to unify. Thank God. We've been asking for guys at 126 to unify for I don't know how long. It's been a long time, though. And for him to come out immediately and say, I want these guys. Throw these guys at me. Let's go unify. He deserves props for that. Because we need to see these guys start to unify, whether that be a fight now with Figueroa, that be Espinoza, that be Leo. I don't care who it is. Let's get a unification down. I would love to see it happen. And I think Bruce Carrington proved himself that night that, listen, I know a lot of people were always saying, Bruce Carrington is this top-ranked guy that they built up the right way. He has an easy schedule. And part of that is true. Listen, top rank is excellent. But Bob Arum has done to get guys in the position to become world champions is great. You could hate it because of the way that they kind of finesse the system. But at the end of the day, Top Rank does their job. They get guys in world championship positions, and they get them to become world champions. They do it fine. They get the job done, and it worked. And I think Bruce Carrington has now emerged, and I think this man's proven that he is a legitimate option. He's a promising guy at 126. I'm ecstatic about that. All right, so we got in the comment section. I like the fight, but I got to be honest. Devin doesn't seem to have many options, but I also like Devin versus Xander, 4 weight class champion, 2 unified lineal champion. Devin could cement more legacy. I do agree with that. I actually haven't thought about that yet. I know that Bill Haney did come out. I did see that report that he called him food. I think it was his exact quote. But I didn't think about that one. I did not think of that one seriously yet, but I wouldn't mind that. I think Devin Haney beat Xander Zayas. I think Xander's very good, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but I do think he's obviously very young. Kind of on the spot here. I do like that fight, though. But if I'm Devin Haney, here's what I would do. Knowing that Xander Zayas is still very young, as is Devin Haney, I think you've got work at 147. If there are paydays, which there obviously are, you have the Ryan Garcia rematch, which I know they came out and said they won't do it today. That's bogus. If the payday is right, they're going to make the fight happen. If Ryan Garcia beats him, the Shakur Stevenson payday could be there as well. Conor Benn maybe hypothetically could be there. Like, there are too many fights out there for Devin Haney to make it 147, where give him at least 2026 and maybe even parts of 2027. Then he's going to move up to 154, and we'll see what happens at that point in time. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I actually have not thought about that in depth yet, but I could see that fight happening. I do like that. Bruce is that guy. We have the same birthday, LOL. I met him and his dad. You can't help but be a fan of this guy. That's a spot on. I mean, I've had him on the show twice now. he is a blast out on the show. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's just fun, high character dudes. You always gotta love those guys. I mean, there's certain guys in life that you just gotta root for. You gotta enjoy, you gotta love. I feel like this is a man who actually is just like that. That you can't really hate the guy. There's nothing he does wrong. He's not really controversial. He's just a good dude. He boxes. He does the things the right way. I enjoy this guy, and that's honestly just what I love with it. So I love Bruce. I can't wait to see what he's got in the future. We'll see what happens. Who can honestly get down with Crawford? If you're talking about Terrence Bud Crawford, ain't nobody. I mean, hypothetically, okay. Can somebody get down with the man? Okay, sure. When we look at guys like, obviously, even moving up to 175, a guy like Better Biev would be interesting. A Bivol would obviously be challenging. Hypothetically, Benavidez, and even obviously talking about cruiserweights or heavyweights, sure. But in terms of 168 or below, nobody. And I know some people might say, oh, Boots Ennis. Yes, I love Boots Ennis. He's not beating Bud Crawford. Not right now, at least. Now, maybe, I mean, hypothetically right now because Bud Crawford's been retired. But you know what my point is. I think Bud Crawford's retired. I think he's backed that up. Sure, if some excellent payday comes in from Bud Crawford where we're talking about Bud Crawford pulling in, I'd say, I think the only thing Bud could possibly consider would be 100 million plus. And even he said on that podcast with Ryan Clark on the Pivot that there's no amount of money that'd bring him back. So our hopes of ever seeing him back in the ring outside of an exhibition fight or some kind of fun tune-up fight, I don't see it happening. I think the Bud Crawford era is over with, but he's done, guys. We got to move on, but nobody's beating him anyway. So let's move on now. Okay, this one's going to get me excited as well. This is throwing it back a few weeks. This was right before I cut off going live for you guys. And so here it is. Dalton Smith KO'd Subriel Matias round 5. This is when he won the WBC junior welterweight title. All right. Here's what we're going to talk about. I was shocked when Dalton Smith did what he did. I just want to make this very clear. Dalton Smith emerged suddenly as a legitimate player now in boxing. This was an intriguing prospect working his way up, but what Dalton Smith did against Subriel Matias was a moment for myself that I said, okay, this man's arrived. Because here's the deal. It's very difficult for a lot of guys that are young at 140 specifically right now to make a big name for themselves. What Dalton Smith did against Subriel Matias woke, I think, the entire world up. We're talking about a man, what Dalton Smith did to Subriel Matias that night was he went into the ring, fought a guy. Remember, and I don't say this lightly, but Subriel Matias was known as the boogeyman. This is a man that made countless guys stop on their stool midway through the fight. And of course, he had the tragedy where he obviously took a man's life in that ring. This man fights a certain brand of style. And what we learned was that if you fight a certain way like Liam Paro did, that you could avoid the power, you could avoid the pressure, and you can easily masterclass him. It was a possible game plan. But what Dalton Smith did that night, which what shocked me, is Dalton Smith said, you know what? You fight a brutal style, Subriel Matias. I'm going to walk up in this ring, and I'm going to fight your style. And I'm not only am I going to fight your style, I'm going to dismantle you, and then I'm going to KO you. That moment was a statement by Dalton Smith where I sat there watching that fight and I was just sitting there shocked. I mean, I had some tweets going out there and I was saying, listen, this man's fighting a dangerous style. Dalton Smith is probably more skilled than Matias. If he just fights his brand of style, he should be able to win this fight. But Dalton Smith went out there with a mission. He said, you know what? I'm going to go to war. As a young cat, I'm going to go out to war with Subriel Matias, fight his style, and I'm going to take over his style, and I'm going to KO him. That moment right there was a signature moment of Dalton Smith, where now I look at it and I can say this. We talk about guys at 140 right now. Dalton Smith is a very hot name because you have the UK backing behind you, which is a massive fan base, and you have lots of great venues to go possibly fight at in the UK. But on top of that, you just made what I think will be one of the bigger statements this year. And I just told you guys the backstory. But when you take the way he won that fight against Matias, that type of storyline, that is a signature win. And there will probably be a more significant win this year than that. But just from the standpoint of the way he won that fight against Matias, that is as big of a statement as you possibly can make. And I just remember myself, I don't react a lot. Like I said, I'm not a fan of anybody in boxing. I enjoy the sport of boxing. But that moment right there, it made me get up out of my chair. I was shocked. So hats off to Dalton Smith. I feel like we have a legitimate player at 140 now. And we've been talking about there's not a lot of money makers at 140. This guy is intriguing. I think Adam Azim's the fight we need to see one day down the road, a big domestic British fight. That's probably not until later this year and next year. But Dalton Smith's arrived. And I was shocked by that. So I know this is a little bit old content, but I did want to make sure I touched up on this because I was shocked by that moment. The next fight for him, though, is going to be Alberto Puello, which, going back to it, Alberto Puello, Matias fought each other to a very, very entertaining, high-octane, pressure-type fight back in July. I would love to see that rematch. I was hoping we were going to see that rematch, but guess what? I'm all good with this. I think this will be a fun fight, and I'm excited to see it. I give Dalton Smith the edge in this fight, but don't ever write off Alberto Puello. This is a good fighter, a good dude. So we'll see what happens there. But let's see what we got right now. In the comment section, Claymore, nobody messing Bud. If he accepts the fight, you're cooked. That's a fact right there. I still think he can be convinced to rematch Canelo. That is the one. But, that comment he made on the Pivot show, and I know Bud's can be a funny guy, but he looked Channing Tatum, I think that's his name, the football dude, right in the eye. And Channing Tatum said, well, I would do so much money. And Bud Crawford essentially said, so you'd sell your soul for money. And all of a sudden the room got quiet. And I'm not sure if you guys saw that clip. You guys go check it out. It was on the Pivot. But it's a fact. I mean, Bud Crawford has done everything. At the end of the day, if you have all your if your mentals are in check and you're healthy and you have financial generational wealth that Bud Crawford does have, and you've accomplished everything you could want. You were undefeated. You just had the biggest win of the year. You defeated Canelo Alvarez. I mean, what else is there? Only thing left to do is continue to add up more and more fights to your resume and add in more chances of taking more damage and possibly getting the L. If you're Bud Crawford, and he's always been a humble guy, I don't think you're looking at a situation saying money's going to tempt him. This is a dude from Nebraska. He loves Nebraska. He's a very low-key guy, generational wealth. I don't think money is like his lifestyle. For Floyd Mayweather, that was his identity. Money is something that makes Floyd Mayweather roll. For Bud Crawford, that's not the way he rolls. This is a very down-to-earth, humble guy. And so, let's be honest. I would not be shocked if Bud Crawford is done. I don't think we're going to see him, but we'll see. He changed the entire landscape of 140. He may literally be the new legitimate boogeyman of 140. I want to see him against every champion, must-see boxing. I agree with that. Like I said, I think Alberto Puello seems to be the fight that's now locked in for everybody, but there are many fights to make. You talk about Richardson Hitchens, that would be a fun fight to go out there and make. You talk about a fight against Gary Antoine Russell, very intriguing. And let me just speak on this. I cannot wait to see Gary Antoine Russell return next month or whatever, a couple weeks, whatever it is. This is the man who I think is one of the most skilled fighters. Very underrated. Was hoping we are going to see him again last year. Obviously, he's been inactive, but very good fighter. So we'll see what happens there. But yes, I'd love to see it happen. Not for the money, but maybe for repayment of the favor, maybe. I agree. Like I said, I would not be shocked. From the Canelo statement Canelo did make a little bit ago, they disappointed that there's not going to be a rematch. I feel like they might be moving on, but who do I know? I mean, this is boxing. In boxing, the word retire means nothing. I think it takes a little bit more value with Bud Crawford because he is a little bit more serious guy. But what? Tyson Fury is now retired 18,000 times? I mean, the guy doesn't know how to... the guy's retired more times than he's fought, I feel like, at this point. Almost every time he's fought, he retires. But you talk about these different guys. Obviously, Pac-Man, he's back in boxing. The retirement word doesn't mean a lot. So who knows anymore? We could very well be wrong, but we'll see what happens in that regard. All right, the next big fight I want to get into is the fight that did happen on January 31st, and that is overall going down to the UK, IBF, 154-pound belt, Josh Kelly, and Bakhram Murtazaliev. Wow. I was wrong. I don't know what happened that night, and I don't know how many of you guys thought Josh Kelly was going to beat him. I didn't, and I never had a segment on this one, I don't believe, because I was off during the whole time span. But what I do recall is this. I didn't think Josh Kelly was going to beat Bakhram. And what's shocking to me is this, and I'm going to give a few points here. If we recall back, Bakhram Murtazaliev had a game-changing performance against Tim Tszyu in October of 2024. All right. You would have thought that would have opened up the door for so many big fights. Then he doesn't fight for an entire year, over a year. The inactivity was inexcusable. And we had the situation where Erickson Lubin was in position. He was being mandated to go out there and fight him, but countless guys were ducking him. And I get it. It's a boogeyman effect. It's a guy that at the end of the day was scary. What he did to Tim Tszyu, he dismantled that man and beat him down quickly. That's a scary sight to see at that point in time. And then you talk about the fact that he doesn't sell very well. And so those factors all add up to the fact that, okay, a lot of these guys, they didn't want to fight him. And so you got in this position where he's outside of the ring for a very, very long time, and he did not look good. I mean, I was shocked. The Bakhram Murtazaliev that we all witnessed fight Tim Tszyu was gone. Non-existent. I don't know who that was in the ring, but that was not the scary man that we saw against Tim Tszyu early in his career. And so I'm kind of torn on this because on one aspect, I don't want to discredit Josh Kelly at all. Josh Kelly did his job. He won that fight fair and square. He did his job. He beat Bakhram Murtazaliev phenomenally, massive upset. He did his job. But I just really look at Bakhram Murtazaliev. I mean, what was going on? He wasn't scary. Josh Kelly either figured him out, is that good of a fighter, which I don't think he's that good, or something happened. But yes, Josh Kelly took his opportunity when everybody else ducked it, everybody else turned down that offer, and he took full advantage of it. And now guess what? Josh Kelly's in position to be world champion. Josh Kelly is the world champion who now has big fights lined up for himself. And can this be a lesson for everybody? Let me just point this out real quickly. What Josh Kelly did should be a lesson for every single boxer. Take the opportunity you've been given right away. Josh Kelly was not the first option for Bakhram Murtazaliev. Countless other guys could have taken that fight before Josh Kelly. But Josh Kelly rose his hand up and said, you know what? I want that fight. He got moved into position, took the fight against Bakhram Murtazaliev, and guess what? He pulled off the massive upset. He is world champion, and here's the good thing. Not only is this man world champion, he has massive paydays lined up, whether that be a unification with a man like Alexander Zayas, or that be the big one in fighting a guy like Jarrell Boots Ennis. That should be a lesson for every boxer. So many of these boxers want to try moving their careers along a certain way and avoid these type of boogeyman fights. How about we be real boxers and say, you know what? If there's a chance for me to become world champion or set myself up for that position, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to take that situation, and I'm going to bet on myself because I know that if I can pull that off, my life changes. Josh Kelly just did that. And now he's sitting in the position that many of the boxers wish they would have been in, and they had the chance to do. But guess what? Josh Kelly was the only one that actually did that. And so I give a round of applause to that man. But for the future now, I mean, seriously, where does Bakhram go from here? I don't know what Bakhram Murtazaliev is going to go from because, end of the day, this is a man who, like I said, was feared. He was loved by so many different guys, and all of a sudden for Bakhram, it's like, who was that guy? He doesn't sell well, and now you're looking at a guy who is talented, you think, but you don't know where he's at, and I just don't know where he's going to go from here. So if I were him, I would probably consider 160 because 160 is garbage, like absolute dog water garbage of a weight class right now. And if you're Bakhram, you could probably go out and become world champion quite easily there. But still, I don't know where he goes from here. Sucks for him. It was just a wild performance. I just don't understand what he was doing in the situation. With that being said, though, I'm going to go to the comment section real quick and see what we got right here. Floyd went out for 18 months, came back and ran the table. That's a fact. You are not wrong with that statement at all. And I do feel like, you know what, we could definitely see him possibly come back. Like I said, it's not, you don't know what boxing and these guys retiring. But as I said, the big difference though for Floyd is that Floyd was money hungry. We all know Floyd wants his money. He loves his money. And so that is a little bit of a difference between him and Bud. So we'll see if that does factor, but we'll see what happens. Murtazaliev might go to Zuffa if he does not get the rematch with Kelly. That would not be shocking. And I honestly feel like we're going to see a lot of guys do that. And here's the thing. The thing about Bakhram is that the version of Bakhram against Tim Tszyu is a bad man. And I get Tim Tszyu's a little bit overrated. But still, what we saw, that pressure fighter, the beatdown style, like that type of guy is a scary fighter. I just don't know where it went against Josh Kelly. So if he doesn't get the rematch with Josh Kelly, I could very well see him doing that. And I feel like that would be a good pairing for himself. But we will see. Who knows what happens? I just don't know where he goes from here. It was just a very weird performance. I feel like that just was not his best night. Maybe he undervalued Josh Kelly. And I wouldn't blame him for doing so. I get why he did it, but it is what it is. I could see Murtazaliev taking that route. Definitely. So we'll see what happens in that regard. What I'm going to do real quickly, though, is I had an interview, if you guys didn't see it yet, with Josh Padley. He came on the show a week and a half ago now. He was right before he had his statement win where he is now the European champion. And so you can go check out that full interview on my YouTube channel. But I do want to show you this real quickly. It's a quick clip from the interview. So just go out there and check it real quickly. I'll get back from this quick little segment from you guys. And then I'll let you guys know as to some more comments. I'm going to respond to some comments and then get back into the rest of the show. So see you guys in about 2 minutes. Check out this clip that I had with Josh Padley a couple of days ago. All right, so the Shakur Stevenson situation comes to fruition for yourself. Obviously, that's a massive fight. You're going in on short notice against a top 10 fighter in the world at that point in time. Why was that the fight you said, you know what, I'm willing to risk the O. I'm willing to go out there and take this fight. Why did that one suit what you were looking for?
I can remember when my manager first called, and obviously the payday was, like you say, a massive thing as well, because that was going to enable that no matter what happened, I'd be able to go full time because I'd have a little bit of backing by myself. But I can remember saying to my manager when he first called, prior to even announcing what the payday would be and stuff and the purse would be, I said, imagine if we go and pull this off. Um,
Right.
you know, there's always that chance in boxing. I said, imagine if we were poised, this will go down in history, and
Yeah.
people talk about this forever and ever. Against a pound for pound guy, we're gonna fly 10 hours to Riyadh and on 4 days' notice. I said, this will be amazing sort of thing. So that's what we're going through my mind at the time is if we pull this off, I'm gonna change my life forever.
Mm. All right, well, let's go into that ring that night because, as I said, what happened in that ring was not shocking to myself. Obviously, I said Shakur still was the favorite. You're coming on a short notice. All the odds were against you, but you went out there, and some guys might say, I'm just going to run around the ring for 12 rounds, try to get out of the situation. But you went out there and made a statement. I think that's what different. A lot of people now earn your respect that night. Yes, obviously you lost your yes, those things happen, but you earn the respect of guys. Why was that your mindset? Why'd you say, you know what, I'm going to go out here and whether win, lose, or draw, I want to make sure people remember Josh Padley.
Like you say, because what would have come after that if I'd have been victorious that night would have, like you say, sent shockwaves worldwide.
Right.
Um, More than just like they say, I got a massive response from the public from it. But it would have been even. Imagine how big it had been if I'd have pulled it off.
Right.
Obviously, that's what was in my mind that night. And as a fighter, you don't obviously want to take your first L. So I tried as hard as I physically could. Like I say, is a pound for pound top 10 for a reason. He's a very special talent.
All right, so let's go through those 9 rounds then. You're in the ring with Shakur. Obviously, he's a mastermind. I think personally, the best defensive fighter in the entire world right now. And you just talked about that, and you had a lot of good moments in that fight as well. But you're in the ring. What is it like fighting Shakur Stevenson when you're going punch by punch, round by round, going through the 9 rounds? What was that fight like for yourself?
Like I say, the accuracy and the timing and the speed when he wanted it to be were the best that I've ever been in the ring there with sparring or anything. Um, like I say, there's always been the question of the punch power. I've definitely been punched harder, and there's no denying that. And a lot of fighters say stuff like that. But what he lacks in, obviously, power he makes up for. I said it before. He makes up in timing and speed and ring generalship. Um, I can remember he punching him in my head a few times, and it made like a wince because he'd hurt his hand on my head, and I thought, this might get a bit easier now. And I just like to say, I've said it before, but his coach shouted, "Go to the body check," and within 3 punches, it found my body perfectly where he needed to, and obviously due to the poor conditioning on 4 days' notice, that took a lot out of me. I'd probably have been all right if he'd just punched me in my head all night. But like you say, he adjusted in there and figured out what he needed to do to get me out of there.
All right, so the Shakur Stevens situation comes. All right, so I appreciate you guys all for tuning into that aspect right there. So yes, if you guys want to check out the full Josh Padley interview, it should be available on my YouTube channel. Just go over to the actual Shu Show interviews. It's been uploaded, I think it was about 10 days ago now, whatever it was. Just go check out that full interview there. My whole sit down with him, talked about his future, his current life, his whole story, everything. You can go check that out at that point in time. All right, so we're going to transition now into some call-outs that's happened over the past little bit of time. And obviously, there's been a lot of call-outs since I was last live. I want to talk about this one aspect, though, because during the Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez card, there was an interesting scene that went down between Conor Benn and Romero. And a little bit shocked because Conor Benn, he's been calling out just about everybody. This time around, he called out WBA welterweight champion Romero for a fight in 2026. And the truth is, I feel like this fight could legitimately happen. You're talking about a situation where Matchroom is involved here. Obviously, Romero should be able to make that partnership happen. And they're confident. Matchroom is. Frank Smith even said that the mandatory challenger, Giasov, will not stand in the way, and that's in quotes, if they choose that route. So we'll see what happens. I feel like if this fight were to come, do I want to see Conor Benn, Romero? I don't really care. I mean, I'll be honest. I think Romero is a guy that he gets big fights because he knows how to build up a fight. Conor Benn is a little bit better fighter, but still, very similarly, it's more because of his branding and his name that makes him a big fighter than otherwise. But here's what I'm going to say. I don't mind Conor Benn and Romero making a fight happen. If Conor Benn and Romero do make this fight happen, it will be the buildup of 2026. I don't know what's going to happen in that ring, if it would be a fun fight or not a fun fight. But if those two guys were to go make a fight happen this calendar year, I don't think you will find a better build-up process than those two guys. The amount of comedic, funny interactions between those two guys would be absolutely hilarious. So I don't know what the fight would be, but I am in favor of this. If they do make the fight happen, I feel like there's better fights you could have make. But if we get Romero, Conor Benn in 2026, I'm not going to complain about it because sometimes you just need to spice up a little bit. Sometimes you need some of those entertainment, funny press conferences and fights. This would be one of those. So I would be all for it. I would not be against those guys, but I will admit to this aspect, the little exchange they had at the Teo and Shakur card, that was weird. It felt like a very forced face-off fight. It wasn't real. I don't know what they did there. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the video's up on X. I'm sure you guys can find it on YouTube too, whatever it is. But very weird face-off little thing they did there. Whatever. It is what it is. I think Conor Benn is trying to call every single person in the world right now. We'll see what he actually does in fruition. All right. Here's the next thing I want to get into. I've touched up on it a few times throughout today's show already about Zuffa Boxing, and I do want to expand upon this because I get it. And I've always said this. It's very polarizing. A lot of people don't like Dana White. And I get that. Don't get me wrong. I see why people don't like Dana White. But here's the deal. Zuffa Boxing has now signed a Paramount deal. It's going to be valued around $100 million per year over 5 years. If you do math, that's about $500 million deal. And that was good in of itself. But then Zuffa Boxing comes over with the shocking signing of Jarrell Miller. When I was last live, I said, you know what? It's probably going to take Zuffa a little bit to get those big name fighters. Well, little did I know that come the month of January, they're going to sign one of the best fighters in all the world in Jarrell Miller. And then we come to find out that not just Jarrell Miller, but, and by the way, he's going to be fighting Brandon Glanton on March 8th. They're also now in talks with Alexander Usyk. And that shocked me. Here's the deal. They are doing things differently. Whether you like Dana White or not, I think the approach that boxing fans need to take to Zuffa Boxing is this. Sit back and enjoy the show. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not pay-per-view. It's on Paramount Plus. All I can say is this. Zuffa Boxing has now had a couple of cards in the books. Fun fights. Good fights. Have there been issues? Sure. But at the end of the day, it is consistent boxing that is being infiltrated back into American boxing. Are we really going to sit up here and complain about extra boxing on Sunday nights? I know I'm not going to do that. Whether it is the best fights in the world or just fights with no-name guys that are very entertaining, we're getting free boxing added on into our boxing schedule. Why are people complaining about this? I don't know if Zuffa Boxing will turn out to be the biggest name in all of American boxing. I don't know if it is the quote-unquote savior of boxing. But what I do know is that it is time to stop complaining about Zuffa Boxing. It's time to start sitting back and enjoying the show. Now let me go a step further though, because I do feel like this about Zuffa Boxing. I think it's going to be successful. And I'm going to get some crap for that. I get it. But here's what I feel like about Zuffa Boxing. Dana White, whether you like him or not, has a genius mindset when it comes to business plans. You can't deny what he did with UFC. If you're not familiar with UFC background, when he took over the UFC, it was going to go out of bank. It was going to be filing for bankruptcy. It was going to go out of business. This man took it over and rebuilt UFC into what is now the biggest combat sport in America. I get people are going to debate that with boxing, but guess what? In terms of traction on social media, revenue, and all those different aspects, it is pulling in more money and resources statistically. I'm a boxing guy. I am boxing guy, so don't think I'm trying to go shoot over to UFC. I'm just going by stats. UFC is bigger currently in America than it is for boxing. Worldwide, I'd still say boxing is bigger, but America-wise, he's built that UFC up that great. It's phenomenal what he's done with them. And so from a business standpoint, you can't deny this guy. Does he do things that's a little bit shady? Maybe. But also, maybe is it just that he does business? And what we talked about in boxing for so long is a faulty business. We just got done talking about the commissioning bodies. A lot of faultiness is going down with them. Whether you like it or not, agree with it or not, there is a lot of stuff that's just not run normal. Boxing is ran differently than every other sport in the world. Basketball, football, baseball, hockey, you name it. They have structure. There is no structure whatsoever in boxing, and that has hurt the sport. Dana White is not going to deal with that. Dana White's coming in here and is building something. I don't know what it's going to be exactly, but he's building something that is structured. I get it. Do I like the fun walkouts? Do I enjoy the special trunks and the boots and the gloves? Yes. But Do I think he's also going to involve those later on? Yes. Why do I say that? Look at the UFC. For the established stars in the UFC, they have personality. You ever notice Alex Pereira? You ever acknowledge Max Holloway? These guys have their own signature trunks. They have their own signature stuff that they get to wear for their fights. There's going to be some changes that he does make. And so I get it. A lot of people are going to shoot shots at Dana White because of the Muhammad Ali Act and all these different aspects. That's fine. You can have your opinion on the Muhammad Ali Act. But all I'm going to say is this. If you are a fan, you don't have a say-so in whether or not the Muhammad Ali Act happens or does not happen. There's nothing we can do about it. What we can do is sit back and enjoy the show. Because for those people that want to fight for the Muhammad Ali Act, all I know is this. They just signed Jarrell Miller. They might sign Alexander Usyk. And if the fighters want to continue to sign contracts with Zuffa Boxing, why are your feathers getting so ruffled about what happens with Zuffa Boxing? If the fighters don't care, why do you care? Seems a little bit weird because us as fans are not being impacted by Zuffa Boxing. The money that fighters get paid doesn't impact me, doesn't impact you. It impacts the fighters. And if the fighters are looking at these deals and saying, you know what, I'm going to take it, then why are we throwing such a big fit about it? And on top of that, I don't know the numbers, and we probably won't be disclosing the numbers anytime soon or maybe ever. But what I did hear is Eddie Hearn made this very clear. He said if the UFC fighters found out what the boxers are getting paid with Zuffa Boxing, they'd be very upset. Whether that is true or not, I don't know the answer. But Eddie Hearn seems to be saying that Zuffa Boxing boxers are getting paid a little bit more than UFC or maybe even a lot more. I don't know the numbers once again. But all I can say is this. If you are a fan of boxing, stop crapping on the Zuffa Boxing. I don't know about you. I enjoyed the first two cards. Were there ups and downs, flaws, and things that could be changed? Yes. I think Dana White's going to do it as well. I would not think this man is going to sit back and let things go to crap. Dana White's going to build something special here. And his vision, and it's going to take time. But just sit back and enjoy the show. I think it's here to stay. I think Zuffa Boxing is going to be here for a very long time. And I think it's something that we should embrace. As I said, free boxing on Sunday nights. That is consistent. Last time I checked, I like when PBC makes fight boxing cards. But you know what I don't like? That we're only getting 2, 3, 4 cards a year. I like when Top Rank wants to put together boxing cards. But you know what I'm going to admit right now? Top Rank has not had a freaking card since July of 2025. We are now mid-February of 2026. All I can say is that Matchroom is really one of the only groups in all the boxing world right now that's putting together consistent cards. I'll give Queensberry, they're fine as well. And Top Rank, a Golden Boy, they as well are doing not much. At the end of the day, Ring is consistent. Matchroom is pretty consistent. Queensberry is solid. Can we start to actually just say, why not just have this and embrace it? I think it's unique. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to go to the comment section real quick. I see a lot of comments coming in. I'm going to address them. Let's get right to it. Zuffa making American boxing great again. Honestly, I like what you said right there. I do agree with you right here, and here's why. And I appreciate you tuning in round one. When we talk about American boxing, it is faltering right now. Whether we want to admit it or not, I think the best way to possibly put things together right now is saying this. American boxing has a lot of struggles, and it can be revived. And I'm going to always go back to this. When we have well-promoted fights, look at Canelo versus Bud Crawford. Look at Jake Paul versus Canelo. Look at Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Look at all these big fights you have on Netflix. Do you notice the numbers go up really high? Do you notice that it starts to trend on social media? But people start talking about boxing. All of a sudden you go to school, work events, the barbershop, whatever it might be, and people are talking boxing. Why does it not happen all the time? Well, it's because these promoters can't make big fights happen. The promotions are done very poorly. It's not consistent, and the best fights are not being made. So when you put all this together, you realize that there is a market for boxing, but the market's not being fulfilled. And this is the problem. If Dana White can find a way to branch those two things together, which I think he's working on, then all of a sudden American boxing is skyrocket again. There's a reason that we are now a football country out here in America. Basketball is second. Baseball is faltering. You could call it 3-4, whatever it is. You have soccer. You have all these different sports. Boxing is falling further and further behind right now because of a lack of consistency, lack of big fights. Heavyweight division sucks. There's so many issues right now. If we can get this stuff figured out, it would be huge, and hopefully Zuffa Boxing can do that. Zuffa Boxing is bringing back boxing to American masses and worldwide. I agree. And this is, like I just said, the biggest thing is, can we get some consistent boxing going down in America? If we can get that, I'm a happy man. We don't have consistency at all in the States. If that can happen, I'm all for it. We're here for it. If Dana can pull it off, let's have T. How can more boxing hurt boxing fan? Exactly. And that's my point. I made a tweet after the very first Zuffa Boxing one, and most people were in agreement with it, but some people were still saying, oh, the fights had no big names on it. Then don't watch it. I mean, like, seriously. This seems to be the complaint about something. First of all, why do people have to complain about everything? Like, seriously, can we just enjoy things for once? This isn't all realms of the world, by the way. If it is going to be in terms of life, if it's going to be in terms of sports, politics, we don't always have to complain about everything. Just going to point that out there. Sometimes we can be positive. And as I said, if you don't want to watch Zuffa Boxing, you don't have to watch it. It is free. Go out there and turn it on to Paramount and you can watch it. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. So at the end of the day, if we can get good, and let me be clear, have the names been great yet? No. Have the fights been good? Absolutely. The fights we just saw, especially on Zuffa 2, were phenomenal. I get a lot of people didn't know their names. I had fun, and I think a lot of people did as well. Zuffa's literally free on the internet. I love it. Exactly. Free boxing, consistently. Who's going to complain? Excited for the Bodhi Martin fight. Zuffa is here to stay. I'm excited for that one too. I think that's going to be a fun fight. Like I said, this is the early stages of boxing here. They are getting more and more names. Jarrell Miller, I think, what is it? It's going to be Zuffa 4 on March 8th. It should be 4th one. Yeah. That being the 4th Zuffa Boxing fight, and we're going to have Jarrell Miller, Brandon Figueroa, I'd say it's one heck of a start. How many other promotional companies out there can have that be their 4th card headliner? I mean, that's a pretty good sign if you ask me. Jarrell Miller, Brandon Figueroa as your 4th promotional event. I mean, that's a good sign right there. But yes, I do agree. Fun heavyweight fight going down right there. And also, can I just add this in real quickly? I'm a fan. I don't know about all you guys, but I am a fan of him cutting down the weight classes. I get it's controversial. I think it's, what is it, 8? I forgot off the top of my mind. I think it's 8 weight classes he's going to go with, the original 8. I like it. I get there's going to be some controversy there. I get some people don't like it, and I get the weight cutting issues. But I've always been a fan of saying, you know what? Let's fight at the real weight class. And I get guys will still weight cut and all the different aspects, but let's cut it down a little bit. I'm a big fan of that. I think it's worked out just fine for the UFC. I don't know if it's the best way in the world, but I'm all for it. I like seeing that. I'm intrigued by it. $7.7 billion deal from Paramount, the biggest combat sports deal in U.S. history. The networks left boxing, Showtime, Fox, even ESPN, but they like what Dana's track record provides. And that's the biggest thing. We have not, and I don't want to take shots at everybody because I'll be honest, have these other guys done good things for boxing to some extent? Sure. But let's not act like there's anybody in boxing right now who has a better business history than Dana White. Love him or hate him, you cannot deny the track record. And that's just a fact. I don't care what you people's thoughts are on him politically or the way he carries himself or the way he acts in public. None of that. Take all that out of account. Let's just look at boxing right now. His business game plan, what he's done with the UFC, is incredible. There's no denying that. He took a bankrupt company and turned it into a mega superstar promotional company with the UFC. That is ridiculous. This man is hosting a UFC event on the White House lawn. He took a bankrupt company to the White House lawn in 2026. Do you realize how insane that is? Nobody in boxing is doing those type of things. So we might as well sit back and just see what this man's going to do because I think he's been solid for the sport of boxing. Zuffa also almost signed Bam Rodriguez, which forced Matchroom to overpay Bam just to keep him. Yes, that is a fact right there. That was interesting as well. And I'm just going to throw it out there real quickly. I would not be shocked if Bam actually goes to Zuffa in the future. I don't know the terms of how many fights it is. I think it might have been a 4 or 5 fight deal. I don't know exactly what it is, but I could see that happening. Bam is only 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to be a free agent again in the future. And if you're Eddie Hearn in Matchroom, I think, like I said, Eddie Hearn does move different. I'm going to give him his credit where credit is due. He is consistent. He just guys active. He knows how to promote them well. I think he is the best promoter in boxing right now. That's been established. Obviously, I don't know what Dana White's going to do yet, but out of the established guys, I think he's the best guy. He seems to know what he's doing. But Bam to Zuffa would have been huge. I would not be shocked to see that in the future. But you make a point. Like, they are legitimately in the mix for everybody. When you're signing Jarrell Miller early on, and you're in talks with Alexander Usyk, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to talk about it in a few seconds now. But if Wilder does beat Chisora and he ends up obviously winning that fight, the Usyk fight's obviously on the table then, don't be surprised if Wilder comes over to Zuffa either. Just going to throw that out there. So these are big name guys going to be working with. We'll see what actually happens here. Sunday is not a good day for boxing. Okay, I do agree with that. However, let me just add this in there. The one thing I'm going to say about this is this. If we're talking about them building this American brand, which they obviously are, Sunday is going to be a problem, but only for about 5 months out of the year, obviously because of the NFL. If we're looking at it from boxing fan base, there are too many dates throughout the calendar year on, for example, January 31st, where you have fights like Xander Zayas going down. You have the Shakur and Teo fight early in the day at Bakhram Murtazaliev. You're supposed to have Adam Azim on that day. Obviously, that fight got canceled last second. But we have so often in boxing that we've made Saturdays like these only days we can have boxing, or at least big name boxing, that sometimes we are overloaded. If Dana White, and this would take time, it would take a lot of time, but if Dana White can establish almost a new tradition in America. Remember, back in the day, Thursday night and Friday night boxing used to be something that used to happen going back to the 80s and 90s. Like, we used to have that happening. If Dana White can establish some form of a tradition for boxing fans that Sunday night boxing once a month is their new day, I mean, it could work. Once again, everything Dana White's doing right now, my approach is this. I'm going to sit back and see what happens. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm sure he will change if necessary, but I see his vision. I think he's trying to make Sunday night boxing for Zuffa Boxing and make that their signature day. And if he can pull it off, it is a solid thing. But I do agree with you, Rick. Right now, I think Saturday nights are special, but if we can get out of the habit and transition into more of a, Sunday-based thing, I'm not against that. I'm not against it, but we'll see what happens here. I heard Top Rank is going back to ESPN. I've heard rumors of all different types of things, but let me be honest with you, just straight up, at this point, just sign the dang contract with somebody. I don't understand that. Like, I will give them props. At least Bob Arum is still having his fighters fight consistently, and he's working with all the promotional companies. Hats off to him. But, like, seriously, what is he doing? Like, seriously, what is Bob Arum and Top Rank doing? How can you be a business that doesn't do anything for, what is it now, 6, 7, 8, what are we, 8 months now? 7, 6 months? I don't know, whatever we're at, 7 months? I mean, I don't know how they're still even afloat. It's honestly baffling to me. I mean, seriously, they have not had a production since July 31st, 2025. What other business in the world can last that long of not doing anything? I don't get it. It's weird. Just sign a contract. If it's with ESPN, with whatever, get it done. Top Rank is garbage. I see your point. I mean, obviously, from a production standpoint, they are not good at all. I mean, they're probably the worst of all the production standpoints, but it's still boxing once again. Back when it was on ESPN Plus, it was free in that aspect. I'm not against it. I just like boxing. So if they can have some fights come up, I'm all for it. But we'll see. They just need to get a contract signed. Second card was at 1A. I'm calling this Sunday card like a big stop. Give me more boxing. I'm all for it. 100% agree. I'm excited for this Sunday. It should be a fun one. PBC is more garbage, though. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick point on this one. When I look at PBC from a production standpoint, like if you're sitting at home watching it, I think they do a remarkable job. I really do. Like, I love the production standpoint. Their problem is they're not consistent. And they don't work with a lot of organizing bodies that often. I mean, they've got a little bit better at it, I'd say, over the past few months. But generally speaking, they're not very good at doing that. And so if you are PBC, we need more cards. Like, this going 4 months and only having a fight card once every 4 months is ridiculous. So there's, like I said, at the end of the day, you can critique every boxing promotion. They're all slacking in some way, shape, or form. Canelo and Jake are the face of boxing. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. I've always said that. Jake Paul, he's obviously not a great boxer, but I'm going to look at money. I'm going to look at revenue, what you bring in that regard. And in that regard, yes, he does bring in money. Canelo Alvarez obviously is up there as well. Obviously, I think he's in the back end of his career, but still, one of the biggest money-making machines in the world. I think Anthony Joshua, you could say, is just a tier below them. Not at their level, but just a little bit below them. But obviously, yes, those are the two main guys at this moment in time. $8 pay-per-view versus free fights on Paramount. Yeah, pick your poison. I agree with that. Now, like I said, are some of those PBC cards special? Absolutely. Like, I don't want to crap on PBC because when they actually have cards, they are good cards. And if you want to use the Fire Stick, if you know what I mean, just going to leave that there. But if you want to utilize that source, obviously the PBC cards are good. The problem, once again, is this. If you are PBC and you're going to be in a position where you don't have consistent cards and you're going to all of a sudden have these cards that are half butt, there's not very good cards sometimes, and you're still going to make them pay-per-view, that's the problem I have with them. So we'll see. Hopefully this Fedora Keith Thurman card actually comes to fruition, and it's a solid card. It shouldn't be pay-per-view, but whatever. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen there. Boxing will regain its popularity in the US if Zuffa Boxing continues to air their fights for free. I agree. And this is something I actually talked about previously on my show. This is right before I went on the break. And I said this about Zuffa Boxing and actually American boxing at large. The biggest problem with boxing right now in America is that it's almost impossible to grow the fan base. What do I mean by that? When you talk about boxing in America, the way that typical fans are going to grow is you're watching TV, you flip a channel, you come across boxing. On today's world, maybe it's you're on your phone, scrolling through it and you come across, Instagram reels, whatever it is. And you find these guys and start watching them. Great. In today's world where DAZN runs it all, and I like DAZN. I mean, at least they're giving boxing a platform, but majority of the world has no idea what the heck DAZN is. DAZN is big in the UK. That's where it was founded in. That's where it's big at. Middle East is growing in as well. But primarily, this is used for soccer. If you're tuning in from the UK, football. This is not a worldwide known thing for boxing. If you ask most people in America, they don't know what DAZN is unless you are a football/soccer fan or you are a boxing fan. And so it's a very tough predicament. Nobody's just scrolling through DAZN boxing. Nobody is. And so you cannot grow fan bases when it's not on TV. That's why, like you said, Paramount is huge. If Paramount is something that everybody has, and eventually if we get to a standpoint where it's going to be broadcast on national television on CBS, that will be even huger because they just announced that for the UFC, they're going to have this upcoming card on March, I don't know, whatever date, March 7th, 8th, whatever it is for the next UFC card is going to be on national television, as is the White House card and a couple others. I think they're going to have 4 of them per year. And so if you are going to be, Paramount, people can actually watch the product. And that's a great thing for boxing. And so like I said, if they can be consistent, it's going to be in America and it's actually accessible for everybody to know about. That's how you grow the sport. And hopefully that does work out. Boxing belongs on Saturday night. Okay, I do agree with that. I feel like we've been accustomed to that. But I do want to go back to, you look at Muhammad Ali days. It wasn't always Saturday night was the big night for boxing. Thursday and Friday night also used to be big days once upon a time. And so as you said, yes, Saturday night is for boxing. At the same time, if we can acclimate other days, it's not the end-all be-all. And I'm going to throw this out there to you. And you don't have to agree with it. I get your point 100%. But you look at what every other sport has done in America. Let's look at primarily football. It's a close comparison in terms of having one predominant day, and they've spread it out. Football is a Sunday day. Sunday is reserved for football, NFL, right? However, what has the NFL done in years the past decade? They've expanded Thursday night football and Monday night football. On top of that, let's look at holidays. For the longest time, the NFL did not have events on Christmas. That was the NBA's day. The NFL pretty much said, Adam Silver, step aside. You guys can still have your thing, but guess what? We're coming to the show too. And they've done it. Same thing on Black Friday. NFL has now moved into Black Friday. If you are smart, Dana White's very smart, you can start to add in more days. Why not have more calendar days reserved for boxing? Why not? Every other sport has found a way to do it the right way. If you are boxing, just saying we are a Saturday night event and that's it, it limits you. Sure, Saturday night can be your big day. That can be your day you reserve Saturday boxing for primetime boxing. Not against that. Don't leave Saturday boxing. But why not expand? If you are Zuffa Boxing, you say, you know what? Why not go out there and add on a Friday or a Thursday, whatever it is? You get my point. Another day of the week that you can just add on more viewership, grow the sport. I'm not against it. So I do agree with you. You are right. Saturday night belongs to boxing. That being said, adding on more days similar to the NFL's route is not the worst thing in the world. Wilder is garbage, not worth the money. I'm not going to deny with you there. That being said, he does draw big tickets. He still is, and he really is, let's be honest. As sad as it is to say this, Wilder is the biggest named and the most attractive heavyweight fighter right now. And nobody's really close. As crazy of a statement as that is to make, that is a fact. And that's why the SchuZ fight is going to be on pay-per-view. He still sells big time. And so I get it from a stylistic and whatever he brings to whatever you call that stuff in the ring. Obviously, that's not pretty. But he sells well. That is that. I'm just going to point that out there. I'll actually talk about him momentarily, but that's the aspect. Boxing finished unless you love the sport. Boxing would have been Thursday night before the NFL game. That's not a bad idea. I do like that. Obviously, we're way past it, but we'll see what happens. Zuffa needs to fire Andre Ward from his commentary team. I like Andre's a good dude, but I do see your point. I mean, like I said, everything's going to be a work in progress here. Dana's going to go through a lot of things, change a lot of things. We'll see what happens overall. Zuffa needs to hire Paulie. He's literally the best. I don't mind that idea. I do like Paula. He is very, very good. You are not wrong there. Like I said, once again, Dana will make changes as needed. That's a good hire right there. I actually will not be against that at all, though. That is very, very great. The zone is cheeks. All right. I'm always going to say this. I think the zone's production is not very good. At the same time, I will always give them credit because at least they put boxing on a platform. At least they're one of the few companies in all the world that has given us boxing fans a chance to actually still watch boxing. It's sad to say that. Do I wish there were better things than DAZN? Do I wish it was more accessible? Do I wish the whole pay-per-view plan went better than it has? Yes. But ESPN, Showtime, etc., Fox, everybody, they're all dropping out of boxing. If nobody else is going to show boxing, I mean, we can't do anything else about that. And so it's a very tough predicament for us. If we're talking about what's going down right now with them, I'm going to give them credit for that. Can they improve? Heck yeah. A lot of ways. But at least they've been that, that safety net for us. And so we'll see what ends up happening there. But yes, that's what I want to say about Zuffa Boxing. Now I want to stream into this. I just talked about the Deontay Wilder. That's actually my next topic. But the first one I want to get into is something I made a joke about earlier. Tyson Fury is not retired. Nobody's surprised by that at all. He's going to fight Makhmadov on Netflix. This is going to be very interesting. It's going to be announced for April 11th. Tyson Fury is officially back, which is very interesting. So, to give my thoughts on this real quickly, am I excited for the fight? I really don't care. It's a little bit surprised that Netflix picked this up, though, because I thought that for a while, like the Ring events, because Ring is going to sponsor this, but I thought Netflix, I just don't get it, but whatever. I'm not actually going to give too much thoughts on it. I'm just a little bit surprised that Netflix picked it up because I feel like it's not going to do very well. I don't think anybody in the world outside of true boxing fans knows who Makhmadov is. Like, he's solid. He obviously had his good performance with Dave Allen, but he's not, nobody really knows the guy outside of true boxing fans. And then Fury, obviously a mega name, but it's not a good fight. So am I excited for it? No. Will I watch it? Absolutely. I watch all boxing. So we'll see what happens. But Tyson Fury is back. Obviously, if he wins, it should set up the mega fight with Anthony Joshua, which obviously I know I've never went live after the whole Anthony Joshua situation. So obviously my condolences to Anthony Joshua. It was one of the most tragic things. And honestly, I'm just going to say this real quickly because I was not, my last live show was about 2 days before that whole situation happened. I just want to point this out real quickly. If you are Anthony Joshua, he deserves to take every bit of time he possibly wants. I feel like we've seen some videos and some posts by him. He seems like he's starting to recover a little bit, but I want every boxing fan to know this. Don't put any pressure on the guy. Like, what he went through, if he doesn't ever come back to boxing again, I don't think anybody should be mad at him. If he takes a year off, whatever it is, he can do it himself. He deserves the right to do whatever he wants. It was one of the most tragic situations. I hate what happened to that. I mean, it was horrible. So I know I just want to say that real quickly because it never went live after the situation. But praise it for Anthony Joshua. The whole situation just tragic. And I think, honestly, I just root for him. Hopefully he can come back and just, I don't mean just come back to boxing. I mean, come back and just get back to being Anthony Joshua, the likable character guy that he is. So horrible situation there. But that's just what I want to say about that real quickly. So we're here. Why didn't Netflix offer Crawford a fight deal? Is he not a star? Well, I'm not sure if you're referring to post-Canelo fight or pre-Canelo fight. Obviously, the Canelo fight, the first one was obviously on Netflix. Post-wise, because Bud Crawford retired like right after the fight. And so I don't know the whole situation. If Bud Crawford does return to the ring, I guarantee you it would be on Netflix or at least some kind of ring thing. But I don't think he's going to come back. So I think the biggest reason there is because simply he retired. So I don't think there is a package deal. He doesn't want money. So I don't know exactly why. But obviously the last fight was on Netflix. I don't know what would happen now, but I would assume if he did come back, it would be on that. Now, I did say just a moment ago, I'm going to transition into the Deontay Wilder situation. But before I talk Wilder, here's the interesting thing. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys are well aware, Wilder is back. But here's the interesting factor. It's going to be on Misfits Pro. All right, so I've watched Misfits Pro, not a lot, but I've seen it. I know what it is, I should say. I actually haven't watched any full events. But Misfits obviously is a bunch of celebrity and dudes. I don't follow it that well. It was essentially, if you're not familiar, something along the lines of KSI, those type of guys. I really don't watch Misfits, to be honest with you. So I had to research this a little bit beforehand. If you guys know what it is, congratulations. But it's a lot of like celebrities and those type of guys. But they've all made this whole Misfits boxing league or whatever you want to call it, promotional company, and they fight. Now they've transitioned though to Misfits Pro. They signed a couple guys from the UK, solid fighters, and now all of a sudden we have got a new Misfits Pro promotion. And they're going to kick off this event with a long-term deal with DAZN, and it's going to be headlined by Deontay Wilder versus Derek Chisora on April 4th. It's also going to be a Sky Sports pay-per-view. So this is good for boxing. Now, multiple points I want to break down here. The first point is this. If we're looking at Misfits Boxing, all right, I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I don't have any expectations for it. But what I do know is that more boxing, once again, is good for the sport of boxing. Also, getting back on Sky Sports for the UK, for my UK fans. I know you guys will enjoy that. I know it's a great thing in there as well. And so that's going to be back into play. But I do want to touch on this fight specifically because this is interesting. Deontay Wilder, Derek Chisora. When the rumors came out about Wilder fighting Usyk, I was just scratching my head. I was like, okay, on one side, I get why Usyk is doing it. It's a fun fight, should be an easy fight, and you get the 3 horsemen off on your resume. On the other side, I said, well, this fight's going to suck. Unless Wilder lands a miraculous bomb, which as of the Wilder that we've seen the past 2 years now, he doesn't know how to even throw a punch. I don't really know what that fight's going to translate to. That being said, this makes a lot more sense. Derek Chisora, Deontay Wilder. Here's why I like it. Both guys are obviously well past their prime. Both guys are in the final stages of their career. And might I add this last point? Both guys are in a position where if they lose their fight, they need to retire. Now, will they? I don't know anymore, but they need to retire. If you're Derek Chisora, you said last time your 49th fight was going to be your final fight in the UK. Obviously, you lied to the fan base. That's messed up, but whatever. He's back. For Deontay Wilder, you had your Herndon fight return last year in July, and now, you're working your way back up again, and this was a much more better step-up fight for yourself. Here's why I'm intrigued by this. If you're Deontay Wilder, this is the right opponent for you. Chisora is not a guy who is very skilled at all. Probably more skilled than Wilder because Wilder has 0 skill, but not as skilled as a Joseph Parker or any of those type of guys. Chisora is going to be on the attack the entire fight. This is a warrior. He wears that war hat for a reason. If you are Deontay Wilder, this is a situation where you go into it with the mentality of saying, you know what? I have a chance of knocking this guy out. And hopefully, because he's going to be under pressure the entire fight, he's going to have the mentality of saying, I've got to go out swinging. Because the biggest problem with Deontay Wilder over his past few fights has been this. He is not wanting to throw the punch. And here's the baffling thing about Deontay Wilder. In case you haven't realized yet, he's got no skill. His footwork is a work in progress, to say the least. He has he has one thing. I think, let me just say this. The best way of summing up Deontay Wilder is essentially that Euro step KO that he had. That right there is exactly the definition of Deontay Wilder. He's got no fundamentals, no skill. All he's got is this wild power that can knock out anybody if it lands. He's just going to go out there like a wild wrecking ball and throw out all kinds of crap, unorthodox, 0 skill. And if it lands, you're screwed. If it doesn't, then he's going to look like a fool. That's Deontay Wilder in a nutshell. And so if you look at that, he is fun to watch from that standpoint. But this man, when you fight a guy like Derek Chisora, is going to force him, hopefully, to throw the punch. Why? Because it's not going to be this technique type based fight. When you look at Joseph Parker's fight, Joseph Parker went out there and fought a very technical type fight. There were not a lot of punches thrown. Actually, a record low amount of punches thrown. And so Deontay Wilder didn't know what to do. Zhang Zhang was very similar. 2 guys that are very similar from the standpoint of saying, we're just going to stand here with our fists up and hope we connect. That's the mentality of both those 2 guys. And so you have this very weird fight play out as well. Now, I think it was round 4 was a little bit better between Zhang Zhang and Wilder, but still, you get the point. When you're looking at Chisora, this man throws 0 caution to win. He's going to go right after Deontay Wilder, try to go knock him out, go to war, and hopefully that wakes Deontay Wilder up. Because we have not seen Wilder have any form of aggression in the ring in a long time. And here's why I think he could bring it out. I'm not sure if you guys saw the clip. Him and Chisora, they were in the UK on a Talk Sports show. And all of a sudden, I saw something I haven't seen from Deontay Wilder in a long time. And I said, if you guys don't know the clip I'm talking about, go look at him blowing up at the show host. What I witnessed from Deontay Wilder was something I liked. Now, in this scene, Deontay Wilder looked very weird. It was an outlandish take he had. He was going all crazy, baffled, and his mind was going crazy. It was very irrational, to say the least, at this show host. But what I saw in Deontay Wilder was a fire that I've not seen in a long time. And that was intriguing. The Deontay Wilder we've seen for a very long time has been this ayahuasca, this love and peace guy, and I don't know what that is. Deontay Wilder, that we know in his prime, was a guy that came out with famous quotes of saying to this day, screaming at the microphone for no reason, going out there and talking about, I have the legal right to go kill a man. This is the Deontay Wilder that we have come to know and love and was such a powerful, dangerous monster in that ring. And I saw a little bit of that Deontay Wilder in the interview. I don't know if we're going to see that come the ring time, but I was intrigued by that. And that video right here, right there, was a very intriguing moment. Because if that Deontay Wilder is going to come out in the ring, that angry, irrational, radical, crazy Deontay Wilder, if we see that version of him in the ring, that could be a good sign for boxing fans. Not saying we're going to get prime Deontay Wilder back, but if we can get Deontay Wilder swinging for the fences again, trying to go knock a guy out, that would be the best thing possible for his career. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but that little clip I saw on social media from the interview was a little bit inspiring because I'm going to be honest with you. I hope Deontay Wilder has a great life. I hope he can live a peaceful, calm life when he retires. But if he wants to step foot in the ring, he's not somebody that can be like a Shakur Stevenson or, any of these technically sound, calm, cool, collected guys. If Wilder wants to win, he's got to be a little bit crazy. He's got to be a little bit angry and wild and try to go kill a man in the ring because he's not a laid-back, skilled guy. He's not a technician. And so that was a very intriguing moment for myself. We'll see what happens, but I did enjoy that moment right there. All right, let's go see right here. Why don't fighters go toe-to-toe like the heavyweights anymore? All right, so there's a lot of reasons for that right there. What I am going to say is this. When you look at heavyweights, their skill set ability are very small. Now, obviously not all. Alexander Usyk, and then going back in the day, Ali and those type of guys, right? But generally speaking, for a lot of heavyweight guys, they don't have the skill set, the fundamentals, the speed, the footwork to move like anybody else. And let's be honest with you guys. If you are a fighter, you're still a man trying to live another day. If you can master the ability to hit and not get hit, why would you not take that? In all honesty, it's very difficult. Very few fighters can do that. Only the greats can do it. But if you have that ability, why would you not do that? Now, when you're talking about other guys, for example, a William Skull, what he did against Canelo Alvarez was abysmal. What Ryan Garcia did in his fight against Romero was abysmal. But for the most part, right, if we're talking about Shakur Stevenson, that's a different story. If we're talking about these guys that literally just run 24/7 like William Skull did, that's different. But if we're talking about going toe-to-toe, you still get that. You still see that in Japanese boxing, Mexican styles. It's really just a mixture of styles. And I think if your mentality is hit and don't get hit, you're not going to see a lot of those type of fights where we go toe-to-toe. He's more skilled than Deontay. Yes, I know that. I was making a joke by that aspect, but yes, he's definitely more skilled than Deontay. His defeat against Zhang was one of the funniest KOs I've ever seen in boxing. That is a fact right there. No, I still go back to that moment, and I was shocked because as an American, I had a little bit of like, okay, I hope Deontay Wilder can be good because we've got no other heavyweights right now. And all of a sudden, the man turns backwards, talks to never mind. I don't know what was going on in that moment. That was, like you said, that was one of the wildest moments I've ever seen. Hopefully, we don't see that version of Deontay Wilder ever again. All right, so I've got just a few more things I want to get into on today's show. One of them is this. So, obviously, going back to Shakur Teofimo Lopez undercard, one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in boxing history was Big Baby Miller. He literally lost his hair in the middle of the fight, and that was one of the funniest things. I just want to point that out real quickly because that was hilarious right there. But I do want to say this real quickly. That moment in that fight, I don't know if we've ever seen that before. I don't have film of everything we've ever seen before, but that moment between Jarrell Miller and Kingsley eBay was probably one of the funniest moments ever. Speaking of Jarrell Miller, congrats on that win for himself. Hopefully he can get another big fight. I know that fight was not fun whatsoever, but that has to be one of the most iconic, funny moments in the world. And I'm only going to say this really too as well. He will probably be on the show in the near future, so stay tuned for that clip, and that interview will be releasing pretty soon. So hopefully we'll get him on the show in the near future because we are working on getting a date lined up for him coming on the show. But before I go wrapping the show, I'll be giving you guys kind of a quick rundown of some of the other big fights that went down. I do want to give you guys another quick preview of one of the other interviews I had just a little bit ago. This is a basketball one, so obviously I do boxing show and then basketball I'll talk about for different interviews. But this is a very inspirational story. If you guys don't know Scott Pollard, he is a longtime NBA veteran. He is now the tallest person in the history of the world to receive a full heart transplant. He has been an NBA champion, an incredible athlete, a Kansas Jack legend. And so this was a very inspirational clip I had on him, my interview that just released. Just go check it out on my full YouTube channel. But here's a quick clip, and then I'll be right back to wrap up this boxing show after this with some other big topics. So I'll see you guys in just a few short moments. This news comes to yourself and you know that this is now the shoes that you're going to be placed in. What's going through your mind at that point in time?
Well, for the first 3 years after being diagnosed, all the way up until actually no 2.5 years, it was September of 23 when my cardiologist finally said, "Hey, we've done everything we can do. We need to start talking about transplant." Up until that point, uh, I was thinking, okay, we'll beat this. I'm an athlete, you know. I need some rest. I'll walk when I can. I'll do some stuff, and this heart will heal, and I'll be okay. And the medicines will kick in. But we tried everything. Uh, Procedures, medications. I was trying stuff. First side effect was death. No joke. One of the medications I took, the first side effect was death. And they were like, "We don't use this anymore, but we have no other option. We're going to try it on you." I was like, "Yay!" So it, it was an emotional 3 years, but I still had that mentality. I'm going to beat this. When we started talking about transplant, that's when the shoe dropped. I was just like, "Oh no, I'm going to die." That was the first time. September of 23. My cardiologist here, Sonny Chowdhury, he just said, "We need to talk about transplant." And then immediately I started thinking about my dad. I was just like, "I'm too big. I'm never going to get a heart." And they didn't do a great job here at St. Vincent's convincing me otherwise, because when I talked to the surgeon here as I went through the transplant process to be listed here at St. Vincent's, he said, "Me getting you a heart is going to be like winning the lottery," because he's talking about St. Vincent's did 28 transplants that year. What's the odds one of those donors is going to be a giant, or have a heart big enough for a giant? So that wasn't great news, but I appreciated the honesty. In University of Chicago Hospital, I went up there and they said the same thing. They said, "We did about double what they did. We did about 50 last year." And I was like, "What about Vanderbilt?" They're like, "Oh, they do more than anybody." And then so that's how I got connected, because I have a friend that's a cardiologist in Boston. He was my cardiologist when I was out there with the Celtics, and we became friends. And he said, "You need to talk to my friend Shaw." And so he got me a phone number, and I called Dr. Shaw, who was the surgeon that ended up being my surgeon that did my transplant. And I said, "Hey, is there a way I could come down there and get tested, and you guys could evaluate me and see?" And he goes, first thing he said to me, he goes, "You won't wait any less anywhere else." He was that confident. So, long story short, the fear was there. I initially, after we digested all the transplant information, this is late September 23, fall of 23. And I said, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to live until I'm not alive anymore. I'm just going to fall asleep or whatever, just like my dad did, but he happened to be driving, and luckily nobody else was hurt. I'm just going to live it out." And my wife, I still get choked up when I tell this story because she loves me so much. She gave me a mental slap in the face. She said, "This isn't about you. This is about me and your children. What are you thinking?" And I needed that, because that was true. I was like, wow, I was being very selfish. I was thinking only about me and what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go anymore. I was so tired. I was mentally exhausted. There was no oxygen going to my brain or my body because my heart wasn't beating right. And so I was exhausted. I didn't want to do anymore. I was just like, I'm just done. The fight was gone. And she reminded me it wasn't about me. My one of my kids was 16. That's how old I was when my dad died. And I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, I'm just going to let it ride. Really? I'm not even going to try." So that was the mental and emotional slap in the face that I needed to remind me that I was being selfish. And then we went full in. I got listed here. I got listed in Chicago, and then went to Vanderbilt to get listed there. And they said, "You're not leaving. You're too sick." And I didn't realize how sick I was until I woke up from the transplant. Once I finally got the heart, I woke up. I was like, oh, and I didn't feel great.
I'm sure.
But my mind, I was just like, that was the first time in my life that I was like, during that process, that I was like, oh, I was close. Like, I knew I was sick, but I didn't realize how close I was. I was very close. In my opinion, on my professional medical opinion, I don't think I had months left. I think I had weeks before this heart, my original heart, was going to give out. I didn't have much longer.
So as I said, that interview, you guys can check out the full one on my YouTube channel. It's underneath the SchuZ show interviews. That one obviously with the basketball person, but just like I said, that's one of the most inspirational stories I've ever had on. And I've interviewed almost 1,000 people now in my life. And so if you guys want to check that out, go check it out. He is, as I said, an NBA champion. He's an all-time great Kansas Jayhawk basketball player in college basketball, went to the NBA, won a championship with the Boston Celtics. He has one heck of a story. He is the tallest person to ever receive a full heart transplant in the history of the world. So if you guys want to check out that interview, go check it out on my YouTube channel. That being said, though, let's get back into boxing and just a quick little aspect as well. For those of you that are kind of learning the show, the new format, the show is only going to be boxing. I'll show some clips like I just did of my basketball stuff. But as for basketball, that stuff will only now be done through long sit-down interviews with high-name players, whether that be college or NBA players. So just kind of give you guys a quick update on what the new outlooks for the show is going to be like. So let's get into this rapid-fire session to close out the show. A few of the fights, I said there was so much for me to get into that I missed since I've been gone in boxing, but I want to get into these aspects. Rapid fire. As we talked about, Xander Zayas, he defeated Abbas Barao by split decision, and I want to talk about this one. That fight was sensational. Hats off to both men. Both guys decided to go out there and unify. They didn't have to do so, but they went out there and unified in the very first defense when they could have had easier fights. And what I want to say about it is this. Xander Zayas is going to be a star in the making. You look at what he's already done. He was at one point when he became world champion, the youngest world champion in all boxing at that point in time. He's now already unified that belt and now has got 2 belts at 154. On top of that, this man is performing at the halftime of the Super Bowl with Bad Bunny. When you talk about guys that have potential to rise and become stars in the sport of boxing, that is Xander Zayas. This man has the personality, has the skill set. Like, this man's got it all together. He is going to be a star for a long time. Now, is he the best boxer in the world or the best guy at 154? That is to be determined. But what I do know is that this man is young, he is hungry, and he's going to be a problem in the sport of boxing for many, many years. So, hats off to Xander Zayas. This man was phenomenal. I love what I saw against Abbas Barao. He put on a statement that night, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this man for a very long time. So, I loved it. He is someone I'm very high on. I know we briefly got into it. I know Claymore, he was talking about him a little bit ago and discussing about, obviously, his man. He likes Raymond Martaya, call him the best guy at 135. And I'll be honest, he certainly has a debate right there for that case. But he went out there and defeated Andy Cruz. Now, this was a very interesting fight as well. And I'll be honest, can I give you guys multiple fronts on this one? I was intrigued here. Raymond Martaya proved... Now, I didn't have a show on this one, so I didn't actually publicly say it. But in the back of my mind, if I were to have had a show at that point in time, I would have picked Andy Cruz. I'm just going to kind of say the truth. I didn't say it publicly, but I would have picked Andy Cruz. But I did think it was a very close fight. But if you were to say percentages, I would probably have said Andy Cruz maybe 55, 45, something along those lines. But Andy Cruz had his moments, but Martaya won that fight, and I was very impressed by him. I thought Raymond Martaya... Obviously, he had his fight when we all knew he was going to be elevated world champion, became world champion, replacing Vasily Lomachenko. I was intrigued to see him in this fight. This was a very difficult fight. He took it. He took care of business, and he won that fight. And if I'm Raymond Martaya, I mean, I look at this guy. Raymond Martaya is going to be a very intriguing fighter. I don't know if that's going to be remaining at 135 or there are talks of moving up to 140. But if I am Raymond Martaya, I'm sitting in a very good spot right now. Because you look at 135, you have a lot of fights you can make. You could go fight Shakur Stevenson. You could also go fight the winner of whoever else becomes champion in the weight classes right now. There's a lot of fights you could make for Raymond Martaya, while you could also move up to 140, and you could be very competitive there. We talked about it earlier. 140 has a lot of guys that don't have big names. He would kind of fit into that scheme right there, but there are fun fights to make. As a pure boxing fan, I would like to see Martaya fight a guy like Gary Antoine Russell. That would be a fun fight. I would like to see him fight a guy like Richard Hitchens. These fights at 140, they're not fights that, would sell massively outside Dalton Smith right now or hypothetically Shakur or Teo, but those are fights as boxing fans, I think we all would love to see. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. I would like to see Martaya face a guy like Richardson Hitchens. I think that's a fun fight right there. As would be a Gary Antoine Russell fight if he gets away from Hiryaka here in a couple of weekends, or 10 days now, whatever that day is. I would like to see that fight happen. So I like Raymond Martaya. I'm going to flip over to Andy Cruz, though. He took the first loss of his career. Obviously, he fought for a world championship very early in his career, but there's 2 fronts I want to discuss for Andy Cruz. Front number 1, can we stop the Keyshawn Davis talk? I mean, it's never going to happen anyways. The weight class is going to be too far apart. But what happens in the amateurs does not mean it's going to translate over to the pros. And when we talk about this situation right here, it was never going to be a fight I thought was competitive. Don't get me wrong, Andy Cruz is still a good fighter, but he was never going to beat Keyshawn Davis in the pro ranks. Never going to happen. Now it's never going to be a fight that we see happen. So I don't think we're going to see the fight ever go down, and I don't really want to see it go down, but that is that. Here's what I want from Andy Cruz. Go down to 130. He already signed a new deal with Matchroom. Eddie Hearn thinks he should move down to 130, and I think he should as well. Because if you're Andy Cruz, you looked a little small in that ring. And I think Andy Cruz, now I don't know his body and the weight cut abilities, but just by what I know about boxing, I could literally see that guy move down to 130. And 130, I think he could be quite competitive in. I mean, there are some good names there, but I think 130 is a little bit weaker than 135. Now, obviously, 135 is in a flux right now, but I could see him being competitive at 130. That's the move to make. You are more apt for your body to fit in at 130 than you are at 135. Go make that move. I would like to see Andy Cruz fight at 130, but we will see what happens in that regard. Look at the comment section real quickly. Xander and Shakur are boring. They never go for the knockout in big fights. All right, so I see what you mean there. And for Xander's aspect, I'll say this. He's still very young. And I get it. Not going to always give excuses to guys. He's obviously a world champion now, not a prospect. But give him time. Give him time to develop. At the same time, I will always say this. If guys are boring, it is what it is. Now, Shakur, I think I enjoy watching him. I think he's a masterclass in terms of what he does in the ring. I enjoy watching that type of level of skill. Xander obviously is not quite Shakur in that regard or anywhere near Shakur, but he still is a technically sound fighter. That being said, at the end of the day, when you win big fights and you can take care of guys, I think it just shuts out the crowd. At the end of the day, we have to accept that. Floyd Mayweather did that for his entire career pretty much. When we look at some of these guys, they may not be knockout artists, but if they know how to get in there and get the big wins, and I get Abbas Morale is not a big win, but for Xander Zayas being, his first title defense, being a unification fight, fighting a world champion who is very established and has been fighting for a lot longer than him, that's a big win for him in that standpoint. So when you're in big fights, your number one job is to go out there and get the job done for yourself, to continue to be able to win fights and do that. And I think if you can pull that off, I'm not going to take shots at you. You get the job done. I'm not paying for a masterclass. I will say this, though. That is boxing. At the end of the day, if you are playing for boxing, these guys want to go out there and they want to win. And I get it. Like I said, I'm always going to say the standpoint. Like, I think a lot of people there's two sides a lot of time in boxing. Sometimes people are going to go out there and say, you know what? I only want the knockout and I hate the guys that are just super skilled. And the other side, they're always going to say people just want the knockouts. It's always this kind of this war between guys. I'm going to be honest. I see everybody's point. I get the people that want to go out there and say, I want the knockout. And I get the point that people want to see this more skill set. But at the end of the day, they just need to get the job done. Whether we pay for it or not, that's obviously up to us and what we're going to pay for. We know what we're going to expect from these guys. Let's not be like, if you're going to watch Shakur Stevenson, don't be fooled. You know what you're going to get. You know what I'm saying? And so I get your point. You're valid. You 100% make sense. I'm not mad at you for that statement at all. I get what you want. That's your taste. But I would advise you on this. If you want the knockout, then just go pay for guys that can give you a knockout. Go watch a guy like Tank or your obviously Mexican style fighters. Go wake up early and watch Japanese boxing. That's oftentimes free as well. Those type of styles fit you better, and I get that. I know a lot of people that like that type of fighting a lot better. Not against it, but it's just a fact of the matter. We have to understand that if you watch Shakur Stevenson, you're not going to get the knockouts. So if you don't embrace the skill set, you're not enjoying that aspect, then just don't watch it. That plain and simple. All right, so it was now announced. Obviously, it's coming up very shortly now, but Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman, March 28th, Amazon Prime. This should be interesting. Obviously, it should have happened. What are we looking at now? I think it was supposed to happen in October or whatever it was. Am I excited for the fight? Not really. I'm going to watch it. Of course I am. But it's not a fight that I'm super intrigued by. I feel like this is a fight we're going to go out there and see. And I think Sebastian Fundora will win it. I don't think Keith Thurman's going to come out there and pull off the upset. I could be wrong here. Let me know in the thoughts in your comments. If anybody thinks I'm wrong here, let me know that. But I think Fundora should have this win quite easily in the bag for himself. We will see what happens, though. Not going to throw out the window, but that is going to go down March 28th on Amazon Prime. All right, so this obviously has been a long show. As I said in the beginning, it's been a long time since I was live. I think it's been about a month and a half, 5-6 weeks now. A lot longer than I ever had planned, but I am back now. So the new plan, I'll be having a show every Thursday and almost every Sunday. Now, this Sunday might not happen because I know the NBA All-Star Game is going to go down, and then Zuffa Boxing is not until late at night, and I have to do something that night, so I won't be able to do it on that night. So I'll see what I do on Sunday. But if not, I'll see you guys back live on Thursday. And then on typical weeks, it's going to be Thursday and Friday lives. I'll be having interviews drop most typically on Tuesday and Fridays. And then I'll be having my Path Across podcast for those of you that tune into that. That's not on a separate YouTube channel, as well as my new show, The Iron Compass, is going to be dropping on Wednesdays on that YouTube channel. So that's a new outlook for you guys, though. But I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in to the show. And with that being said, that wraps up the wild update of boxes have been gone. Let me know in the comments, who do you guys have winning this weekend in the Zuffa 3 boxing cards? I appreciate you all for tuning in once again, though, and I will see you guys soon very, very much. Actually, I see one more comment here. I'll get back to that real quick before I wrap it up real quick. I'm actually excited for Tim Tszyu versus Errol Spence. I just hope Spence ain't blind. I didn't bring that up this show. Shoot. I think I actually might have that on the next show for Sunday planned, but I'll just address it real quickly right now. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, my man. So yes, Tim Tszyu and Errol Spence, obviously, they are going to be fighting, and I love that fight. I'm glad you brought that up. I can't believe I actually forgot that. Thank you for bringing that up. So this is the fun fight right here, and I agree with you. When we talk about Tim Tszyu, I said this before the break. I said for Tim Tszyu, you've got to go and do tune-up fights to get ready again. This is different, and I know he's going to do a tune-up fight beforehand anyways, but this is different. Two guys that are past their prime, but I'd say are damaged to a certain extent, if you know what I mean. I don't know the right word to say right there, but obviously they've gone through obstacles in life, right? Both guys have obviously been affected by some reason or another. For Tim Tszyu, obviously been beat down 3 times in a row. Errol Spence, car crash, all the stuff's gone through. Obviously the Terrence Bud Crawford beat down. This is the perfect fight for Errol Spence to come back to. I wouldn't have minded seeing him come back and do a tune-up fight first, but solid fight. 2 big names. I heard he's going to get a nice payday for this fight as well, so happy for him there. But as you said, hopefully Spence is not blind. I've got no clue what to expect. I don't even know if I can make a prediction for this fight. I'm not going to do it today, but even on the lead-up to that show, I don't know if I'm going to do a lead-up for that either, because I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. 2 guys that I just don't. Tim Tszyu, we see what he's done. It's not been very promising. And for Errol Spence, he's been a guy that, let's be honest, I don't have any idea what version of him we're going to see. Ring rust will be there. He's been hurt. Is he healthy? I don't know the answer there. So we will see what happens. But yes, that is a fight I'll probably break down more so on my next show, but I appreciate you bringing that up. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys all for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button for myself. I definitely appreciate that. Also, hit that hype button as well. I really appreciate that as well. If you guys are tuning in on Facebook or X, hit that like and retweet button. I appreciate that as well. And don't forget to hit that like, subscribe for more fight updates. I'm your host, SchuZ Schumaker, and I'll catch you guys next time. May God bless you guys all, and I'll see you guys on my next show. SchuZ out. God bless y'all. That's the final bell for today. If you enjoyed the show, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next round. Sound off in the comments. I want to hear your take. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review. Share this with your crew, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.